Alive.
All set?
Yes.
Good evening. This is the Irvington Planning Board meeting for January 4th. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone leaves this meeting happy after we finish our reviews. First order of business would be the minutes from December 7th. Sarah, the comments taken care of?
Yes.
Is there any comment from the board or Mary Ann?
No, I already made mine.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th, 2022?
Or a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan?
In favor.
Okay, that's done. Next order would be to announce the order of what we're doing. Oh, the taxes are up to date.
Yes.
Let me introduce everyone that'll be here for the village. There's Sarah Palermo. She's going to be the gatekeeper on Zoom. Ed Marin is here. He's the building inspector. Doug Hahn is a remote. He is the village engineer. Mary Ann Stesses is the village attorney. She is remote this evening. She's ill. And we have on the board itself is Lori Davidowitz. We have Dan McGilligot. He's ill and in Zooming. I'm Caesar Manfredi. I'm the chairman.
And well.
And well. And Mike Smith is here. He's not feeling well, but he's here. And Mike Bafuco, who is taking the place as an alternate for the retired Kevin. See how fast you forget people's names. Thurman. Okay, the roll call for tonight. Number one would be 20 Elm Park. Number 2 is 15 Jaffrey Court. Number 3 is 33 Maple Street. Number 4 is 9 Hancock Place. Number 5 is 242 Harriman Road. Number 6 is 9 Gray Rock Terrace. Number 7 is 59 Havermeyer Road. Number 8 is 39 Matheson Park. Number 9 is 9 Stearns Ridge. Number 10 is 2 Barney Park. Number 11 is 33 Osceola Avenue. Number 12 is 30-40 South Broadway. Number 13 is 9 Meadowbrook Road. Number 14 is 5 Harriman Keep. Number 15 is 73 Station Road. And number 16 is 11 Stearns Ridge. Okay, we shall start with number 1, which is 2022-38, 20 Elm Park. Sarah,
Yep, they're all coming in.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Linda Whitehead. I'm a partner in the firm of McCullough, Goldberger and Stout, here representing the Willinghams with respect to their property at 20 Elm Park. You will recall we were before you at your December meeting, at which time we presented to you the revisions to the proposed plan, which included drastically scaling back what the Willinghams are proposing to do. Now providing just a small addition to the front of the house for a new fully accessible bedroom and a change to the driveway to allow for a turnaround / parking area. At that time, we were asked to submit a new complete application, which we have done. We've also responded to the comments provided by Doug Hahn and Suzanne Nolan. We received today a couple of additional comments from Suzanne Nolan. We have no problem with making those revisions to the landscape plan. Just really had to do with some tree protection, some trees that we thought might not actually need it because there's no construction in the area, but she's asked that we provide it anyway, and we can make those changes to the plans. Other than that, we also made some changes as discussed at the last meeting to the landscape plan, to reduce the extent of new landscaping, really to be what's needed to screen the new addition, and just scale it back a little bit since we no longer are proposing any tree removal. With that, we do have our architects here with us this evening, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
If you could just bring up the site plan and just briefly go through it. We have 16 items, so be brief, please.
We were trying to be brief, but yes, Nick, can you want to bring it up? And Mark Schulman is the architect from Design Development. Will take you through it quickly and just remind you what we're proposing to do here.
Just the site plan.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. As Linda said, my name is Mark Schulman. I'm the architect with Design Development Architects in White Plains. Quickly going over, and I know we presented this last time, but essentially there are a couple of moves here that were being made. One is that we have an addition being made Page North, which is an expansion of the building footprint that does encroach over the rear yard setback and over the buffer by about a foot. And just to refresh your memory, we've eliminated all work that was actually facing the aqueduct buffer. So this is where we have 2 variances required. We have also reduced the footprint substantially on that single floor addition. And the other move here is that we have cut into the existing site to allow for a hammerhead or a turnaround for large vehicles, emergency vehicles, your Amazon, your straight body panel trucks, the ability to come in and articulate within the driveway and get out without leaving cars parked at the top of the driveway, which is what they do, blocking our neighbors. And we have eliminated the landscape work and the driveway work that we had initially proposed on the south, plan south on this page. So those are effectively the two major moves here. There's a minor change in that we're extending the roof over the front walkway. Right now, there is no coverage. So when you stand there fiddling with your keys and your packages, you're getting rained on. We're just expanding the roof onto 2 columns in that area only. And that's essentially it.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody on the board have a comment?
No comment.
I have no comment. Michael?
No comments.
The other Michael?
No comments.
Dan?
No comments, thank you.
And of
Mary Ann, do you have
course,
a resolution?
I'm
You have a
sorry.
resolution? Good. Mary Ann, do you have a resolution for this?
Yeah. Whereas in February 2022, Paul Willing number of improvements to the house and grounds at 20 Elm Park, which borders the Old Croton Aqueduct.
Well, hold on, Mary. Something wrong with
She's
the,
cutting in and out. That's her internet.
that's our end.
She's out. We're closed for the day.
Maybe she has to. go on.
Okay,
She might-
I don't know, my thing went out. Did you hear any of it?
Start from the beginning, Marion.
Pardon?
Start from the beginning.
Okay, it wasn't that long. Okay, in February 2022, Paul Willingham applied for site development plan approval to make a number of improvements to the house and grounds at 20 Elm Park, which borders the Old Croton Aqueduct, lies in the View Preservation District, and is a contributing building in the Historic District. And whereas the applicant made a number of changes to his proposed plan in response to comments by the planning board over the course of several months, but the proposal required several variances. And whereas on February 28th, 2022, the Board of Architectural Review approved the addition to a contributing building in the Historic Overlay District. And whereas the applicant applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for several variances, but ended up withdrawing his application on June 3rd, 2022. And whereas the applicant withdrew his planning board application on June 3rd, 2022. And whereas in December 22, applicant made a new application to the planning board for site development plan approval for a single-story addition to his house, along with expansion of the existing driveway and related drainage improvements. And whereas the improvements proposed in the new application are significantly reduced from the plan submitted in February 2022, and whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated December 5th, made a number of comments, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And where Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and made 2 recommendations. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the new application on December 7th, 2022 and January 4th, 2023. And whereas the proposed improvements will not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties, the action's type 2 action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Willingham Residence prepared by Design Development. And I enumerate the sheets. And the drawings entitled 20 Elm Park prepared by Hildebrand Engineering. Again, I specify the sheets, subject to 1, receiving variances from the ZBA for coverage, FAR, insufficient rear yard setback and incursion into the old Croton Aqueduct buffer, and 2, complying with the items in Suzanne Nolan's January 3rd, 2023 memorandum.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any comment from the public, which I forgot to ask? Sarah, anybody commenting on this?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comment on the resolution from the board? No comment.
No comment.
Going to take a vote.
Did Dan authorize me to sign?
You don't have to do a motion.
Dan authorized signature.
Okay, I approve.
You already signed.
Yeah.
Dan, you need to vote and designate Sarah to sign.
Okay, I approve and designate Sarah to sign for me.
I approve.
I approve. I approve.
Okay, we're done with that. Thank you very much. I like your surfboard in the back, or is that a paddleboard?
Yes, that is a paddleboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Mary Ann, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, thanks.
Now we're moving on to number 2, 2022-35, 15 Jaffrey Court. While we're waiting, I should note that we had a second letter from the neighbors, Maria and Peter Agudino, concerning drainage.
Good evening. Everybody able to hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay,
We hear you.
excellent. Well, Happy New Year. At the last planning board meeting, there were several items that Doug Hahn and the planning board had asked us to address, which, excuse me, we had. They included proving that any exterior lights were dark sky compliant. They had been noted on the plan, and a cut sheet of that light has been presented. Excuse me. A planting schedule as a request of the planning board. New plants, if I could share my screen, I'd love to do that so I can talk you through that as well. One of the requested items was providing planting schedule, which you see here. And essentially what we're proposing, if I could just shrink this down a little bit, is a series of foundation plantings on the west side, excuse me, the east side of the property that is going to buffer the foundation of our addition, as well as buffering around the new location of the air conditioning condensers. In addition to those plantings, we are proposing some additional low plantings on the west side of the deck. That should aid in, it would be much nicer to look at the plantings and also aid in some water runoff that may happen from the deck on that area. In addition to that, we were asked to clarify under the deck materials. There were notes on the plan specifying that under the deck, we are going to install 6 inches of crushed gravel over a fabric soil separator. Again, that is really meant to mitigate any water that's meant to perk through the deck. As far as the deck details, which aren't part of the site plan or the floor plans, We are proposing to use Trex decking, and that note is on the elevations. Trex decking gets installed with a standard hidden fastener, which will allow us a 1/4-inch gap between deck boards, industry standard for this type of decking material. Much bigger than that and creates a hazard for people walking on it with, excuse me, heels. Much less than that, it doesn't allow the water to percolate. Obviously, 1/4-inch is an ideal. You could go as low as 1/8, but with deck hidden fasteners, 1/4-inch is what's presented. Another item that we requested to do is to propose a concrete washout area. Now that has been proposed in the staging area of the driveway. In addition to that, there were a few comments from some neighbors. They basically had to do with foundation plantings, location of AC condensers. Again, I pointed out that that was relocated. And there were some comments about, or some concerns about dust. And we've added a list of dust control notes on the plan. So if work is happening on dry or windy days, we're proposing to spray down the site with water occasionally just to keep the dust down. I don't anticipate much of a problem. The exterior work is really excavation and in the back of the house. So we don't anticipate much of a dust issue. Let's see, what else? Dust elimination, tree. Oh, and the tree removal permit. There was a question about an existing tree in the back of the property that showed up on an old photograph. That tree was removed under a tree removal permit, and a copy of that was submitted with my application. And I think that's basically it. I did review the updated site plan, planting plan and mitigation measures with Suzanne Nolan. So she had an advanced copy of this. We discussed some of her comments and recommendations on how to deal with the magnolia tree, with if any vehicles are coming near it, how we could protect the ground, and mitigation notes have been presented on the site plan to deal with that. I think that's.
Could you briefly go over the magnolia tree protection?
Sure. Let me just zoom in. So after speaking with the landscape architect, she recommends that we install 3/4-inch plywood sheets over 8 inches of wood chip. So that's meant to be here, just to prevent any compaction of the soil or damage that might occur with vehicles. Now that tree is approximately 6 feet off the fence line. And I know there might be a discrepancy on what I'm calling the critical root zone there. But the only work that's happening in this area is 3 piers will be dug for a deck foundation. The rest of the work is outside the area. And I believe there's a note on the plan about accessing that side from the right of the property, limiting machines from traveling over that critical root zone.
Okay, and there was a comment about the new plantings on the east side not impacting the neighbors' plantings to the east.
You're talking these plantings here. Yeah, we actually had a conversation with the neighbor, and we all agreed that there were substantial plantings on the property line, and that any new plantings should be considered foundation plantings to soften up the house, not necessarily to provide any screening. They actually enjoy being able to look through the properties, and the fact that there's no fence there now. I think both the neighbor and the new homeowners actually like that, and would rather not plant a row of arborvitaes down the property line.
And then, if anything, the shade is coming from the east to the west.
Correct.
So your new plantings are not impacting any shrubs to the east.
No, they should not at all.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Any comment from the board?
That concrete, what did you call it? A concrete washout at the bottom of the driveway?
Yes.
That was an addition?
That was an addition. That was one of the recommendations from the consulting engineer. It's basically an area that after the truck pours the concrete footing, they can wash out, and the concrete rubble gets captured in that area versus being spread onto the street or onto the yard.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Mike,
I have no other questions.
the other Mike.
No questions.
Dan, do you have anything?
I have no questions. Thank you.
There anything from the public on Zoom first?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Any public in person that would care to comment?
I think the both of us would.
Come on,
Can we both go up at the same time?
just speak it one at a time so that the transcriber can.
So take it. All the way slow.
Okay. Hello, Chairman and members of the planning board. And Mr. Ed Marin. My name is Peter Agavino. I live at 11 Jaffrey Park. I appreciate the fact that the AC was relocated to the east side of the house. That really is a big concern of ours. Thank you very much, Mr. Architect, for that. But there are a few questions that still remain. And I think maybe I'll read this. Drawing A201, if you can please put that up on the.
Just please read your comments. It's not a back and forth. Just read your comments.
Read your comments.
Okay. Drawing A-201 depicts a new gutter and leader system servicing the existing dormer, where a gutter and leader system does not exist presently. Such an addition is a significant concern since it will now direct the entire volume of rainwater from the dormer to flow into a single dormer leader onto a steeply pitched roof and into the existing westerly roof edge gutter below. This narrow stream of rainwater will inevitably cause an overflow condition where the dormer downspout discharges into the gutter during heavy rainfall. This is concerning since this overflow condition will occur directly opposite our front entrance. Our side front entrance, that's the only entrance we have, is the side front entrance. An overflow condition of rainwater emanating from the dormer to the roof edge gutter does not occur presently, nor have we seen this in the past. This is because the volume of dormer water is discharged into the gutter over the entire length of the dormer itself and not through a single downspout. And I did include pictures of the dormer, the existing dormer, to the planning board that shows that the dormer does not have a gutter and leader system on it presently. In any case, we encourage our neighbors to consider having the existing westerly gutter downspouts. And I know we talked about this previously, but I'm just reiterating. Discharge into the proposed infiltration system in the rear of 15 Jaffrey or into a newly designed catch basin. Unlike the west side of 50 Jaffrey, the two downspouts along its east side extend underground to drainage piping, which then discharges into the roadway from a curb cut. Magnolia tree and critical root zone. Chapter 202, tree preservation of the Village of Irvington's Part 2 general legislation states the following. Critical root zone. May I have some water, please? You don't have it?
We don't have a clue here. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, wait, yeah. Here, they got a picture with some.
Oh, thank you.
They can do it.
Sorry. Chapter 202, tree preservation of the Village of Irvington's Part 2 general legislation states the following. The critical root zone, or CRZ, is determined as a circle with a diameter calculated from the tree's diameter at breast height, DBH, using the equation DBH times 1.5 times 2. This chapter also specifies how to measure the DBH if the tree trunk splits into two trunks under the height of 4.5 feet from ground level. In the case with my magnolia tree, it splits under a height of 4.5 feet into two trunks, both measuring over 50 inches wide. Revised drawing A101 indicates that the DBH of our magnolia tree is measured at 32 inches. Therefore, a critical root zone with a diameter of 96 feet should have been drawn according to the above-mentioned legislation, as opposed to the proposed critical root zone of 24 feet. However, upon remeasuring our tree according to Irvington's guidelines, the DBH of the magnolia tree is 35 inches. Consequently, the DBH measurement indicates a final critical root zone of 105 feet. It is worth noting that the original proposed CRZ of 24 feet indicates that only 0.75 feet were allocated to each inch of the DBH of our tree, which appears to be against the majority of CRZ legislation nationwide. In order to ensure the survival of our tree, it is of utmost priority to define an accurate critical root zone prior to the approval of any plans, which should then be verified by the Village Tree Commission and appropriate village entity, arborist, whatever it may be, according to current legislation. Additionally, our tree's distance from our post and rail fence is not stipulated anywhere on the revised drawing. And you can refer to revised drawing A101 and photos 3 and 4. Now, chapter 202.8 of the tree preservation of the Village of Irvington's general legislation as it relates to the trees. It states installation of impervious surfaces over more than 25% of the root zone is not allowed, nor is compaction of the soil anywhere along the critical root zone. Now, this magnolia tree is one of our prized possessions. It's very large. It's beautiful. I think at the last meeting, we mentioned the fact that we take very good care of this tree. Our attention is to identify and remedy any foreseeable adverse conditions between the two properties before they have the propensity to occur. Our family has resided at 11 Jaffrey Park for nearly 25 years. Therefore, we believe our assessments are being viewed objectively. With the help of the planning board, we fully anticipate a fair and balanced resolution toward our concerns, our safety, our well-being, our peace of mind, and our quality of life. We also look forward to neighboring a beautiful home and a family in the very near future.
Thank you.
That's what I.
Thank you very much. Our village landscape architect, Suzanne Nolan, has reviewed it, and the architect, being the person that we're speaking with here, the architect identifies thorough tree protection procedures meeting industry standards that, if followed, will result in the mitigation of impact to the neighboring tree, meaning the magnolia tree. And she reiterated that a couple of times, that it is a very thorough protection plan, which I asked the architect to describe, in which he did, regarding wood chips and plywood. In terms of the drainage, if I recall, there was no collection of water from the existing structure. It just ran off and ran to the west. And the new structure is collecting the water and sending it to a stormwater retention system. And Doug, you have any comment on he's attempting to foresee an overflow, which may or may not happen if the downspouts are sized correctly.
I believe he's talking about on the dormer. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, the dormer, there's no gutter, but it still goes to the same gutter that's just below. So there's no
Exactly.
change in impervious, there's no change in anything. It's just taking what's going from the existing dormer and putting it in the same exact system where it's going. So I don't see any issues with it.
Yeah, if anything, in my mind, the stormwater runoff to the neighbor or to the west actually probably would be less because it's going, what's currently running off is currently is proposed to go to a retention system.
That section isn't going to the retention system. That section goes to the front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so and it's just remaining, I mean, it's essentially unchanged. The addition is in the rear for the stormwater system.
All right.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, if I could. The existing house does have on the right-hand side a subsurface pipe collecting the water from the existing. They go to the street. On the left side, the existing lead to on the surface piping that discharges into the existing driveway. So currently, all of the liters of the existing house are being collected and the water being directed away from the neighbor's property.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from the board?
I would like to continue.
I'm in the process of polling the board. Thank you.
So I definitely trust our experts that have addressed this. I am wondering, in order to appease these neighbors that have concerns, is there, let's say that the tree dies. What is the responsibility of the new homeowner? And let's say there is a water issue post this construction affecting the current neighbors. Is there an opportunity to rectify that so that they're not affected?
Who you're asking?
Well, I guess I'm asking the architect and the applicant.
Well, what I can say for my client is that they want to be good neighbors. They love the neighborhood. They're very anxious to move into this house and renovate it. They find that magnolia tree to be beautiful and a huge asset to their property as much as their neighbors. They don't want anything to happen to damage to that tree. I don't know, it wouldn't be my place as the architect to suggest that they would replace a tree. I suppose if there's something in the, I wouldn't know how I would address that.
Marianne, is there anything in our bylaws that would address a situation like that?
No. I mean, I think the thing here is Suzanne looked at it in the first place, and then she looked at it carefully when she did her review for this meeting. And then after we got the Agavino's letter, I raised it in the meeting, in the pre-meeting, and she went and looked back again at it and Suzanne is really very protective of stuff, and she was confident that there was adequate tree protection. I think that what Caesar was just reading was her email in response to the question to review the Agavino letter again.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing.
Dan? Dan, you there?
I think it's gone.
I don't see, he doesn't look like he's there.
Yeah.
Well, Mike,
No further questions.
the other Mike?
No questions.
He came back as an attendee. I'm promoting him to host.
Okay,
Wait, you said you're promoting Dan?
Hang on one second.
any
Wait a
other
minute, while
comments?
you're doing that, Sarah, do you still have the resolutions?
Not in front of me.
They're up on the counter.
They're up on the counter. Okay, whoever they're near, are they near you, Lori?
Yes.
Okay, there needs to be a correction in it. And at the end of the third whereas, where it says screening for the new porch. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, cross out screening for the new porch. And insert foundation plantings
Got it.
on both copies of it. Sorry, I misunderstood what was going on there. till William Witt's explanation. Okay. Did you want me to read the resolution, Caesar?
Excuse me?
Did you want me to
I'm
read the
sorry.
resolution?
Yes, we have a resolution.
Yeah, okay. In November 2022,
Hold on a
Lauren
second. Mary Ann Holt, Dan returned. Dan, you have any comment on this?
No, but I do believe Susan's response and professionalism really is top notch, and the magnolia tree would be protected. Recently we had the Halsey Pond plantings, and Susan's professionalism was really top notch. It's not like we're trying to get something by, or the architect's trying to squeeze something by. It's really well done, protecting all residents in the neighborhood as well.
Thank you, Dan. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Yeah, in November 2022, Lauren Muir and Nader Sarve applied for site development.
Hold on, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, hold on.
Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Would you kindly come up? I guess you want to come up if you raise your hand.
Yeah, certainly do. I tend to disagree with the dormer. The dormer now does not have a gutter and leader system. In the 25 years I've been there, the water has dripped from the entire length, maybe 12 feet, or 8 feet, 2 feet, whatever it is, of the dormer into the below gutter. It was never directed into a skinny downspout, into a steep pitched roof, and then into a narrow 4-inch G-style gutter. That will cause an overflow condition, no doubt in my mind. And not only would that be detrimental for me, that would be detrimental for the homeowner on its foundation side.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the engineer to take a look at that again. Doug, you hear what he said?
Yeah, right now it runs off the dormer and into the gutter. In the future condition, it'll run from the dormer to its own gutter to the same gutter system. If that overflows, it's going to go back to the same gutter that it's going to now.
Doug, can you just show us where this is occurring?
Bill's circling it right now.
Yeah, this is approximately an 8-foot wide shed dormer that doesn't have a gutter on it. I'm proposing a gutter and a leader drain that's just going to collect the water, prevent the water from overflowing the roof in front of windows that might be open, and coming down to a short leader that dumps it down to the existing roof. Still the same amount of water being collected in the same drainage system. Again, this is not a large house to begin with. It has leaders on both ends of the roof. I feel fairly confident that it's more than adequate with the new gutters to collect the existing amount of water and direct it into its existing location.
The amount of water is not changing. It's just being collected so that it doesn't go over the window on the dormer.
I think that his concern is that instead of allowing the water to shed over the dormer over the 8 foot, it's being collected into a 1 liter drain. I just don't think that's enough of a roof to cause any issue.
So if I could.
Go ahead.
Bill, leave that up there.
Sure.
Mr. Agavino?
Yeah.
Mr. Agavino, could you just go up to where it's circled and with your finger point out to us what your concern is?
The water now is dripping off the sides of the entire length of the dormer roof.
Now,
And also this way.
okay,
And it's collecting in an area of gutter that is that wide.
right,
It's never overflowed in this condition. Now, if you take the entire volume of water from this section, divert it down, and have it spill straight down into this is a very steep slope, into inches of gutter here, just inches, or maybe less than a foot of gutter, this will overflow. It will overflow. And my opposite that is my front entrance. We have a lot of problems with soil saturation between two homes.
Can you, actually, I apologize. just comes back to speak to the mic for the transcribe. We take that, that's how the recording is, the transcript. So if you can speak to the microphone or take the microphone over there. If you're going to continue.
Do that all over again?
No,
No.
Okay.
we'll much for that. Just one comment. It's the water falling 3 to 4 feet, splashing on the roof and bouncing down the roof is just as negative an attribute as piping it and letting it spill. And it's not running down in a straight pattern. As it comes down the roof, it's running at an angle, depending on the velocity of the water. I think both conditions are similar enough not to worry about it, and I believe Doug will confirm that.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with it for that 8-foot section.
Okay,
I also have some other questions. And that goes to Susan Nolan, who's the, I believe the,
Village landscape architect.
right.
What?
My mouth is getting dry again.
Sorry.
I'm not used to talking in front of people.
Doing fine.
We have legislation. And the legislation says DBH times 1.5 times 2 defines the critical root zone. That's the law. Susan Nolan is wrong. She's not taking the DBH times 1.5 times 2. If she did that, she would come out to 105 feet of diameter, which is the critical root zone and which is the law written under Chapter 2, Tree Preservation of the Village of Irvington. 24 feet is not the given dimension according to the legislation of this village. It's simply not. It's black and white.
thank you. Mary Ann, you have any comment?
No?
I have no comment.
Mike and Mike?
No comment.
No comment. I'm sorry, we have to rely on our expert and she went over this in detail and she went over it again when she got your the most recent letter. And we're gonna go with that. Mary Ann, you have a resolution?
I do.
We have 16 items today. I think
I'd
you
like to ask
you were
one more.
very articulate in your concerns. We understood them and thank you very much.
I would like to request something from the planning board.
You can make the request tomorrow in our office. They could continue, please.
In
Give me a call
November
tomorrow.
2022, Lauren Muir and Nader Sadri applied for site development plan approval to construct a first floor addition and deck on their house at 15 Jaffrey Court, which is located in the View Preservation District. The proposed construction exceeds the permitted coverage in FAR, therefore requiring variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. In response to comments made by neighbors at the public hearing, applicants moved and screened the air conditioning condenser and added foundation plantings. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and then a memorandum dated December 5th identified a number of issues, most of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And whereas Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated December 5th made 2 recommendations, which were addressed in subsequent submission. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on December 7th and January 4th, 2023. And whereas the proposed construction will have no impact on views of the Hudson River. And whereas it's a type 2 action under SEQRA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Sadre and Muir Residence prepared by William P. Wett Architect, and I specify the sheets. Subject to 1, receiving variances from the ZBA for coverage in FAR, and 2, complying with item 3 in Han's January 3rd, 2023 memo.
We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
In favor.
Dan, you want to chime in and authorize?
In favor and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. I hope you have an evening that's not too long.
We're working on it.
Good evening.
Number 3 for the evening is 2022-34. It's 33 Maple Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Happy New Year to everybody. Yeah, we're here to represent the owners of 33 Maple. Previously, we were heard back in, I believe, November. In our latest submission, we responded to all of the comments from Han Engineering, and we believe everything has been resolved to date. We received comments back this morning, and there were no comments that remained open from Han Engineering or from the local landscape architect. So we believe that we're ready for approval. If there are any comments or questions, we can certainly present our latest update, but that's where we stand today.
Just put up the view of the front of the house.
Sure. I can share my screen, correct? Can you guys see me? My screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yes, here's the, oops, sorry. Here's the existing, previously approved and proposed as of to date. So you can, so this is today, previously approved and proposed.
And they meet all foreign coverage.
Yep.
Yeah, this, everything is under, we're here basically for FAR approval. And
View preservation.
respond to, and view
Site plan
preservation as
approval,
well.
not FAR approval.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Site plan approval related to FAR as opposed to not any variances of any kind.
You had view preservation issues, which was taken care of. A large tree protection. I have a note. Do you have tree protection?
Yes, we specified tree protection for the Japanese maple in the front. We don't believe we're going to be anywhere near it, but we are ready to take care of it as needed.
Okay, any comment from the board?
No comment.
I have no comment, Mike.
No comments.
No comments.
Sarah, anything from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Thank you. Mary Ann, you have a resolution prepared?
Yeah, whereas in November 2020.
Yep.
Two
Mary Ann, you're going in and out.
There we go.
There you go.
Try again.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think you probably heard the first part. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated October 31st, 2022, made a number of comments which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and made several recommendations which were all addressed in a subsequent submission. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 2nd and January 4th, 2023. And whereas the proposed improvements would not negatively impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties, and whereas the action is a type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Shoup Residence prepared by Studio Park Architects and Design, and they're specified, and there's no conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. We have a vote. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second. Second.
Approved.
Approved. Approved. Approved. Dan?
Approve and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, we're all done. Thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Good luck with that. Number 4 is 2022-33, 9 Hancock Place.
Good evening. I'm Mike Segan, Richter and Segan. I went through a pretty detailed presentation and responded to all comments related to site and landscape at the last board meeting we attended. There are a few pending engineering issues that had to be resolved. So unless there's any questions on the site or landscape end, I was going to turn it over to Margaret McManus just to respond to those few outstanding issues that I believe have also been resolved. And I don't see any comments coming from Han on those, but I'll turn it over to Margaret.
Hi, Margaret McManus, engineer with Beatty and Watson. We did address all the outstanding comments with Han Engineering. Basically, it was providing documentation that we had left out of the last submittal, and we added a couple of details to the plan, but basically the plan has not changed since we made the presentation last time, and I believe we've addressed all of the comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other presentation?
If you have any questions, we would.
We'll see if we have any questions. Hold on. Hold that thought.
Okay.
No question.
I have no questions. Mike?
No questions. No questions.
Sarah, any questions from the, any comment from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Yeah, whereas in November 2022, Nicholas and Allison Moore applied for site development plan approval to make a number of improvements at their property at 9 Hancock Place, including shifting the driveway away from the house, relocating parking spaces south of the house, enlarging the northern uncovered porch, redesigning existing walkways and backyard terrace with pervious pavement, seat walls, and steps. And whereas the property lies in the View Preservation District, and whereas the proposed improvements require variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals for coverage, parking in the front yard, and the side yard setback to the driveway. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated October 31st and December 5th made a number of comments, all of which were addressed in subsequent submissions. And whereas Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and then reported dated October 31st, 2022, made several recommendations which were all addressed to her satisfaction. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on November 2nd and December 7th, 2022 and January 4th, 2023. And whereas the proposed improvements would not negatively impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties. And whereas it's type 2 action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled More Residence at Hancock Place, prepared by Richter and Segan Inc., and the sheets are specified, and was site plan set prepared for Allison and Nicholas Moore, prepared by Beatty and Watson Surveying and Engineering. Also, the sheets are specified, subject to 1, receiving variances from the ZBA for coverage, parking in the front yard and the side yard setback for the driveway, and 2, receiving approval from the Department of Public Works for removing the tree in the right of way.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Approved.
Approved. Approved.
Approved.
Dan,
Approved and designate Sarah to sign for me.
well done. Good luck with that. And it looks like it's going to be a very nice result. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is number 5, 2022-32. That would be 242 Harriman Road.
Good evening, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rosner. I'm the property owner at 242 Harriman Road. My landscape architect had a conflict until 8:30 and asked me to jump in and see if you could move us to later.
I think we're okay. If you want to go later, it's going to be late.
Yeah, we understand that. I mean, she felt like she should have a presentation.
Available. What time would she be available?
She said 8:30 at the earliest.
Oh, we'll still be here. We'll come back.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Around 9 o'clock, we'll come back to this one.
Thank you so much.
All right, we will temporarily skip over 242 Harriman and move to number 6, which is 2022-31 9 Gray Rock Terrace.
Hello again.
And we already approved it.
Hi.
No, I'm here 3 times tonight. If you make it to 15, maybe. Yeah.
Might be tomorrow.
Yeah, this is James from Studio Park representing 9 Gray Rock Terrace. This is a legalization that came up as we were trying to get a permit related to an existing retaining wall that was just failing. And we found that there was undocumented work. We already presented it previously. There were a couple items to address from Han Engineering in the last version. We went to ZBA, got ZBA approval for coverage, so that's already been taken care of. And now we're coming back to just clear up the last couple items. We received our feedback from Han Engineering today with no other comments. So we're hoping that we can just move on so that we can begin to rehab the wall. And I can share my screen if I want to refresh, but I don't think there's too much to talk about.
I have one comment on my note here. It's circled. Did it need a survey updated and completed?
We'll get that.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed.
So that was the only thing I had down. Okay. Any comment from the public, Sarah?
There's nobody raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Any comment from the board?
No comment.
No comment.
No comments.
No comment.
Mike, Dan, rather.
No comment, Susan.
Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Yeah, whereas in November 2022, Robert Carmesino applied for site development plan approval to legalize a rear yard patio at his property at 9 Gray Rock Terrace. And whereas the patio required a variance from the zoning board of appeals for exceeding coverage, which was granted on November 22nd, 2022. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated October 31st, 2022, made a number of comments, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 2nd and January 4th, 2023, and whereas the action is a type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawing entitled patio legalization prepared by Studio Park. And there's no conditions on this.
Thank you, Mary Ann. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve,
We have a second.
Second,
approved.
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 Dan?
approved and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, we're all set with that one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 7, 2021-39, that's 59 Havermeyer Road.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too.
So this application was last before you a little over a year ago. Over the past year, the applicant was just in the process of retaining a landscape architect, really finalizing the design. When it was last before you, we received a number of comments from both Doug Hahn and the village's landscape consultant. Our submission, we did respond to all those comments. I can quickly just share my screen. So the proposed project is the addition of an upper deck and then a lower permeable patio. In addition, the applicant is raising the ceiling height in 2 areas inside the structure, which per your code is a technical increase in the FAR, but it will be imperceptible from outside the house. They're essentially going into existing attic space. And with that, we did receive Doug's memo, which didn't have any further comments other than we've been required to go to the zoning board for a coverage variance. Just as a note to the planning board, we are reducing the existing coverages over allowable. And so we are reducing the proposed coverage by approximately 70 square feet.
I'm not sure, but did you mention that you're legalizing the pergola and shed?
I forgot about that, Mariana. Yes, so we did include those structures. Now we are requesting that those structures be approved. They've been considered in our coverage calculations and they're shown on the plans. There's no actual work proposed with them.
Ed?
You have the new numbers. We went over them on Tuesday.
Okay. They have not yet gone to the
No, they have
ZBA,
not yet gone to the ZBA.
but they need to.
They need to.
Okay, and you're happy with the FAR and coverage numbers?
Delighted.
Delighted. That's what Teddy Roosevelt used to say, delightful. Anyway, thank you very much. Any comment from the board?
No comment.
No comment?
No comments. No comments.
Dan?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Yeah. Whereas in November 2021, William Tiggert applied for site development plan approval to construct patios and a deck at his property at 59 Havermeyer Road. Whereas Han Engineering in a memorandum dated November 2nd, 2021, had extensive comments, including that an existing pergola and shed were undocumented. And whereas in December 2022, Tiggert revised his plans in response to Han's comments, including seeking to legalize the pergola and shed. And whereas, although the plans remove areas of gravel, permitted coverage is still exceeded, necessitating a variance from the zoning board of appeals. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the revised plans and in a memorandum dated December 30th, stated that all engineering issues were adequately dealt with. And whereas the village's landscape consultant reviewed the 2021 plans and made several comments which were addressed to her satisfaction in the subsequent submission. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 3rd, 2021 and January 4th, 2023. And whereas the actions of type 2 Action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawing entitled Tigard Residence prepared by Rolf's Ellert Office, subject to obtaining a variance from the ZBA for coverage.
Thank you, Mary Ann. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
In favor.
In favor?
Approved?
Approved.
Dan?
Approved and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, we're all set. Thank you
Thank you all
very
very
much.
much.
Take care. We're moving on to number 8, 2021-35, 39 Matheson Park.
Excuse me, good evening. Bob Cardello, 39 Matheson, representing the homeowners in the project. We were here last month briefly, and we believe all of Mr. Hahn's comments and Suzanne Nolan's comments have been addressed. And it would be my pleasure to answer any questions you may have.
I reviewed the public notice and my particular request was contained in the public notice. So that, thank you very much. And the reason you're here again is because there was no notice for last month's meeting and now it has been noticed. And could you just bring up the site plan and show us where the changes you made?
The original
Just
application.
Interested in the location of the trailers, that's all.
Oh, that's it. Okay. We have the storage container here noted as 8 feet by 40 feet. And the office trailer back here, which is noted as 8 feet by 20 feet.
We had a storage trailer too somewhere.
It was the first one I showed.
Oh, okay. And I think I requested a fence, which I think I see there. So that
Yes.
the
along that juniper line.
the junipers to the, I guess, the east would be protected, their roots would be protected. Is that the fence there?
Yeah, you see it running along here with the bubble note representing that it was added to the application.
Okay, thank you. Any comment?
No comments.
Mike?
No comments.
Mike?
No comments.
No
Sarah,
comment.
anything from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. Mary Ann, do we have a, I don't see you anymore, Mary Ann. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Okay, whereas on December 1st, 2021, the planning board granted to Lisa and Robert Bittencourt site development plan approval along with floodplain, wetland, and water bodies and watercourses permits for the demolition of an existing house and pool and construction of a new 2-story house and pool, patio, and retaining wall at the property at 39 Matheson Park, which is located in the View Preservation District. And whereas because the proposed amount of disturbance exceeds 1 acre, a notice of intent was filed with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And whereas on November 23rd, 2021, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted a variance for location of the proposed pool in the front yard. And whereas in December 2022, applicants applied for revised site development plan approval to add HVAC condensers, pool equipment, a generator, new domestic well, new buried propane tank, a temporary contractor office trailer, and a temporary construction storage container. And whereas Hahn Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated December 5th, 2022, reported that the proposed changes would not have a significant impact on the site or stormwater design and would not affect the previously issued floodplain, wetland, and water bodies and watercourses permits, but did list several other issues which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And where Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and made 2 recommendations which were addressed to her satisfaction in a subsequent submission. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on December 7th and January 4th, and whereas the proposed changes would not have any effect on the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties, and whereas the action is a type 2 action under SEQRE, therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for revised site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled New Construction Bittencourt Residence prepared by Robert A. Cardello, Architecture and Design Landscape Architecture, PC, and proposed dwelling 39 Matheson Park prepared by Hudson Engineering and Consulting, and the tree removals and protection plan prepared by Inviano Quigley Landscape Architects, subject to removing the contractor office trailer and construction storage container from the site on or before March 31st, 2024. That date was picked because the application said that they would only need it through March of 2024.
Is the applicant okay with the resolution?
Yes,
Most, the removal date of the trailers.
yes, we are comfortable with that date.
Okay, thank you.
And would like to formally request a referral to Architectural Review Board for these items.
Yeah, that just happens, yeah.
Okay.
This happens. Do we have a motion? You have the comment?
No.
Yeah, we have a motion.
Motion to, yeah,
Second,
approved.
approved. Approved? Approved. Dan?
Approve and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck at the ARB.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Moving right along. This is number 9, 2020-20. It's interesting. 9 Stearns Ridge. Let the record show that Lori Levitowitz is recused on this item, and we'll move forward with the 4 of us. You can tell everybody is sick. I can hear the sniffles here and that now and then.
Sorry about that. Hey, while you're waiting, who's got the resolution? Is it on yours, at your desk, Caesar?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? Make a correction on it. I just noticed the number I have is wrong. You see at the top is 2022 dash, it should be 20, not 14.
It says 2020.
I made the correction, Caesar.
Oh, you did? Okay, thanks. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patty, you're on mute.
2 minutes left, Patty.
Ed told me it would go better if I stayed on mute. So can you see the screen?
Told me you had 2 minutes.
Okay, so, and I'm taking that seriously. So I've got a very long presentation all set, which I'm figuring that we'll kind of ignore most of it because I don't know that it's necessary, but we can always go back if you have questions. The first thing I just want to do is explain that what we're really doing here is 6 changes that we've made to the house that was approved for 9 Stearns about, a little over a year ago. And all of them are the result of opportunities that we felt with the site or requests that have been made by neighbors. The first is there was a retaining wall in the south yard, which we're eliminating. And we're.
It'd be nice if you had the site plan up and you can point to it.
I'll switch to that then. Because I was just we'll just remember there are 6 things. Okay, so let me get down to that. Okay, so here's what I've done to try and make this faster. The gray is the house, the driveway in front. This retaining wall that's in the south yard, we've eliminated. And instead of having that, we've proposed having a retaining wall extending the other one that was previously.
Hold on there, Patty. Number 7 Stearns is to the left on this site plan.
Yeah, number 7 Stearns is to the left, number 11 is to the right.
Okay, just so I can get oriented. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So the idea is to eliminate this one retaining wall in the south yard, have a smaller retaining wall that is in front of the house, extending the retaining wall that was already approved, which eliminates the need for another retaining wall that was coming across at the end of the driveway. That results in a net reduction of site coverage. A second item is on the north side of the house. We had a retaining wall here before with a series of stone steps coming up to a entrance and a terrace. We've eliminated that retaining wall, that terrace, and those sets of stairs, replacing it with a new retaining wall and a smaller, exit from the family entranceway, just a small set of stairs coming down onto a stone pad. So this is going to give them a better play area. I should go back. One of the reasons that we did this on the south side is the neighbor to the south has asked us to increase the number of large trees that are being planted. So eliminating that retaining wall makes it possible for us to put some very large Norway spruce trees in that area. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The other major thing is we had the deck that was approved in the back of the house is the red outline. And what we're doing is we've changed that shape a bit, cutting back a section of it. And we've added a staircase coming down from that deck to grade. The total back and forth of all of these results in an increase of site coverage of 39 square feet. And I believe Mr. Hahn has confirmed that we are still under what the limit is and that our numbers are correct. I do understand that the village landscape architect would like to see the plan that we're going to change it to with that wall removed, which of course we have no objection to doing. I would hope that that could be a ministerial thing after you guys have indicated whether this is acceptable.
The retaining wall, the new retaining wall adjacent to number 7.
Yep.
What's it doing? I mean,
what we've got is this yard in front of the house drops down along this fairly steeply. What we've done is we've used that retaining wall to control the grade at the end of the driveway. The height of this retaining wall is about 3 feet. So it's controlling.
You're not extending at some time the driveway up to the retaining.
No, absolutely not. And one of the things we thought was better was eliminating the retaining wall that was at the end of the driveway, which actually was going to end up being, I just felt it was going to be in the way of the feeling of the front yard. This way, we can kind of landscape this area in front of the house nicer, kind of feeling like it's the driveway level. And then you're still able to walk down around what's the blue wall, get to the backyard, get down. You can actually walk all the way down to the conservation easement. So I think it all works out pretty well. The only other change that we had on this is originally we had the propane tank over in the south yard. And once we actually got into the propane tank approval process, we found that we needed to be further away from property lines and houses. So we moved that to the north yard. But that's pretty much everything we're doing of a site plan nature.
Did you get a copy of the letter from number 7 Bounets?
Yes, Bart and I have been talking a lot about this. The concern he has is that we're extending, if you go and look at that deck in the back, that the red line was what was approved before and the blue line is sticking out further. If you see his house to the left there, he is looking across at this, but the size of that, which is a deck with a screen porch underneath it, it's not something that's coming up high. It's at the basement level. So I don't think it really provides the level of concern he has. And of course, where this red retaining wall was, that whole area is going to be filled with Norway spruce trees. So The ability to see this is going to be very, very difficult. Actually, if I go back a couple, I did have some photos that I thought kind of demonstrated what that whole feeling was. Here up in the upper right-hand corner here, you're seeing 9 sterns with 7 sterns to the right. And then if I go down, if I blow that up, you can start to see how they kind of relate to one another. The area here where this, where the chimney is, that's just plywood right now, but it'll be brick. The deck is right next to that. It's an 8-foot deep deck, so it's not a large deck, and it's actually quite a distance away from the Benais's house.
Is the 8 foot the new dimension?
The new dimension is 8 foot.
Okay.
So it's,
You said there's I thought you said there's a porch underneath the deck?
yeah, what they would like to have is a screened area underneath the deck so that in the summertime, they're not bothered by mosquitoes and bugs and stuff. That's fully underneath the deck. You won't really see that from anywhere.
But so when you bump out the deck, you're bumping out the screened porch also.
The screen porch will be following the deck, exactly.
So there'll be the structure is actually bumping out, not just the deck.
The screen panels, yes. It's not a, it's a relatively transparent structure.
But it is a structure.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you failed to mention that anyway.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize about that. It's, yeah, I thought that was clear in the submission. The screen porch underneath the deck is just under that one portion, and it has all of the planting between it and the Benais's house. This photo here, and I apologize to Lori for not using the one that went down a little further and included her house, but what you see here is that these are the houses along that ridge, and where we're doing this is the side of the house, but because the house is rotated, I think people get confused and think that it's the side that's facing them, and it's actually not. It's a side that's facing the view, which is one of the reasons we originally had that deck there, because we think it's actually the best, best place to take advantage of the view of the Hudson River.
Okay.
So,
Mary Ann,
yep, go ahead.
How do you said there's going to be new planting there?
The whole idea of removing that retaining wall is to accommodate, I believe we're talking about at least 3, if not 5 Norway spruce trees. So the idea will be to have a large stand, which actually continues the row of similar trees that the Benaises have on their property.
Is that in your application somewhere that you're planting, or are you just saying that?
I'm just saying it right now. We show extensive planting on the plan we have. We're augmenting that. We're not, we're not reducing any planting. We're actually increasing the planting by adding additional Norway spruce trees.
It's not written in what you submitted for this hearing. Is that correct?
That's correct. I didn't get the comment until today, but I think we'd be able to provide that. And obviously we have to satisfy the village consulting landscape architect, and she's been very demanding on our project. So I would think that she would be able to get from us whatever she felt was best.
Mary Ann, you have a copy of the resolution?
Yeah.
I don't see where do you have to come back and get approval from the landscape.
No, it's the last subject, the only subject to is providing the village's landscape consultant for her review and approval, a revised planting plan indicating changes from the approved plan.
Wait, I don't see that. I'm sorry. Is that where is it in here?
It's on the very end of the last resolved. Or the only resolved.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that. All right. Thank you. All right. So the planting that he's talking about would be covered by that last sentence there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, Patty?
Nope.
Any comment from the board? I have no further comment, Mike.
No further comments.
Mike,
No comments.
Dan,
I have no further comments. Thank you.
any comment from the Zoom public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Any comment from the present people? Any comment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She can't recuse herself with the talk.
I thought for sure she would have something to say.
I'm sure she does, but I don't think here.
What did they say? I'm shocked. I'm shocked. There's gambling going. Anyway.
That's great in Casablanca.
All right, I make a motion to, Mary Ann, you have a resolution? Could you read it, please?
Yeah, whereas on November 4th, 2020, Ryan and Megan Kimber received site development plan approval to construct a single-family house and related improvements at their property at 9 Stearns Ridge. And whereas construction began in 2021, and in December 2022, applicants applied for revised site development plan approval to make a number of changes to the approved plan, including relocating and reconfiguring retaining walls, adjusting grading, changing the deck, adding utility pads, and adding a screened porch. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated December 30th, 2022, found no issues with the changes. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on January 4th, 2023, and whereas the proposed improvements do not require any additional variances. And whereas a type 2 action under SEQA therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Proposed Residence Ryan Kimber and Megan Golden, all prepared by Laura Wakefield Architects, subject to providing the village's landscape consultant for her review and approval, a revised planting plan indicating changes from the approved plan.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
I vote yes. Mike? Mike is reading the resolution.
My question, Mary Ann, what if there are no changes from the approved plan?
There are.
Then nothing-
On the landscaping, but there are, and there's, I think, mentioned on the plans, but not detailed. Am I right, Patty?
That's correct.
But Patty just said that what he intended to plant where the retaining wall was now being removed, what he intended to plant there was not currently reflected.
Yeah, but there are other changes, Mike.
I know that, but let's deal with that change because that's what's being told to us is something which will ameliorate the concern of
number 7.
Of 7 Stern. So.
Okay, so what, how about penning in at the end, including the additional Norway, were they Norway maples, you said?
Yeah, a minimum of 3 large Norway maples. And if we want to say large and just put a number.
Spruce. Norway spruce.
Oh, Norway spruce. No, yeah, with
Including-
Norway maples. That'd be great.
Including the additional large Norway spruce trees in front of the house?
Yeah, you know, in the view between the 7 and 9.
If they're in front of the house, right?
Yep.
That's good enough.
Adjacent to number 7.
Yep.
So Mike, did you
I
pen
got
that
the
in?
pen, Mary Ann, I have
The
it.
chair has the pen.
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Okay, so after approved plan, then it's a comma, including the addition of at least 3 large Norway spruce trees in front of the house.
Hold on, the addition of 3 large.
No, at least 3 large Norway spruce trees in front of the house. And Sarah, I'll send you a clean copy of this for the minutes.
Okay. So I gotta do both copies.
Are you still writing it?
I go to the second copy now.
Good.
I'm printing, not writing.
Okay.
The second one I got better.
Okay. Keep that copy for the village. Give the messy one to Patty.
That's fine. I don't mind.
Okay, we need to revote, and I make a motion to approve the amended version of the resolution as
You didn't vote before, so
where we started to.
Yeah.
I make the motion that we approve the amendment, the handwritten amendment regarding the at least 3 blue large Norway spruce trees.
Second.
I vote yes.
Approved?
Approved. And
Approved.
Dan,
Approved and designate Sarah to sign for me.
okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Moving on to number 10, and then we'll come back to 242. Number 10, 2019-20, that's 2 Barney Park.
Hello. Tom Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, presenting the Honsteins, Ray Honstein project. So this is a slight modification to what we presented to you last week, which was a addition of a small walkway. We had a permit process for a generator going under a separate course, and Ed reminded us that if the site development plan had been resolved, closed out, then that would have been appropriate, but the site development plan is still not closed out. So he asked us to add the generator to this proposal. So the change is limited to the addition of the generator to the project.
Could you bring up the site plan, John, so we can at least see what?
Sure. So this is the limit of the change here. So generator located to the north of the house. We think this location is a good location. There's a brick wall, the adjacent property, which is good for sound mitigation. The effect on coverage, we were on our way back to ZBA, but ZBA didn't meet in December, so we're adding the additional coverage of the generator to the ZBA request. It's 8 square feet for the generator footprint.
Okay. Anything else, John?
I think that's the only change on this one.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from the board?
No comment.
No comment?
No comments.
Mike?
No comments.
Dan?
No comments, Caesar.
Thank you. Mary Ann, do we have a resolution on this?
Yeah, whereas on October 2nd, 2019, the planning board granted site development plan approval to Laura Gray and Robert Honstein to construct an addition to their house at 2 Barney Park, along with a patio, walkways, and other improvements. And whereas in 2019, the proposed improvements received a coverage variance from the zoning board of appeals. And whereas in December 7th, the applicants received revised site development plan approval for additional walkway on the site, which requires a new variance from the ZBA. And whereas in January 2023, applicants applied for further revised site development plan approval to install a generator requiring a variance for the additional 8 square feet. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated December 30th found no issues with the application. Whereas the planning board held the public hearing on the application on January 4th. It's type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Gray Honstein Residence prepared by Ferguson Malone Architecture, subject to receiving a variance from the ZBA for coverage.
Hey, thank you, Mary Ann. Sarah, was there any public comment which I didn't ask before?
No, no one's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Vote.
Approved.
Approved.
Approved. Approved.
Dan?
Approve and designate Sarah to sign.
Okay. All right, John, thank you. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
We're going to circle back to number 5, 2022-32, which would be 242 Harriman Road. If the architect is available.
Hi there. Thank
Hi.
you so much for moving us back in the agenda. I'm sorry I had a conflict earlier. I will share my.
Can I get identify yourself first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Susan Jane Shaw. I'm a landscape architect with Aspect 120 Landscape Architecture. And I am here to present the application for site plan approval for 242 Harriman Road.
Proceed.
Okay, so when last we met, we presented our initial plans, and we were in need of a bunch of variances. We went to the ZBA, we worked with Ed on the numbers, and we did get the variances. We also addressed a number of issues in the drawings, including just readability of the drawings, as well as adding information, including a grading plan and a planting plan, as well as a deck design detail stamped by a structural engineer. And what you're looking at right now is the first sheet that shows the site conditions, which you've already seen at the last time I presented here, as well as the coverage information. This is the existing conditions or the removals plan, and here is the plan for improvements. This was the steep driveway that we spoke about, creating a parking space off of the driveway, a little bit less steep than the existing driveway, and also creating a small deck in the rear of the house and extending this deck just a little bit over here. The information that's added to the application is a grading plan, which shows exactly that this will be an 11.3% parking space. It's not ideal, but it is better than parking on 22%, as well as a basic planting plan just to address some of the edges and underneath the new construction, just to make sure that the soils get maintained and no erosion. All or mostly native, if not all native. I'm not sure if Phlox is native, but close enough, not, of course, not invasive. Here is the deck plan, the framing plan, and the decking plan, and then this is the design for the fence slash railing, which is a 3-foot high. And it is in some areas where it's looking into the woods, we have the mesh. In other areas where it's adjacent to the neighboring property, we have slats, horizontal slats, that is blocking most of the view, but not a solid kind of statement saying we don't want to see you. So we have all the details stamped by a structural engineer, Cyrus, planting details, as well as the details for the erosion control, as well as the protection of existing trees. And on the plans, we also showed where that fence will go around the existing trees that is closest to the construction. And let me see, and then all the notes as required by the village engineer. So we've gone through all that process, and I believe the village engineer stated that we had addressed his concerns. And I believe the next step, we would want to be referred to the Architecture Review Board. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that is what we're requesting, to have that referral to the Architecture Review Board.
You don't want a resolution tonight?
Oh, I would love a resolution tonight. Yes, if that's possible.
I think we're out of them.
And since we won't take offense that you didn't adjust the other conflict and meet our schedule, you know, we won't take it.
So sorry, I was actually running that meeting. It wasn't even possible.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Do we have any questions?
No question.
I have no questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Dan,
No questions.
Mary Ann, we have a resolution?
Yeah, in November 2022, Nancy
Mary Ann.
Rosmer, what?
Hold it. Public,
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
thank you. All right, go ahead, Mary Ann.
Whereas in November 2022, Nancy Rosner applied for site development plan approval to make a number of improvements at her property at 242 Harriman Road, including constructing a 260 square foot deck, removing and replacing timber stairs, removing and or repairing stone walls, creating a parking space closer to the house, and constructing a stone curb. And whereas the proposed improvements required variances from the zoning board of appeals for coverage, rear yard setback, and parking in the front yard, which were all granted on November 22nd, 2022. And whereas Hunt Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated October 31st, 2022, made a number of comments, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. And where Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and made several recommendations which were addressed to her satisfaction. And was the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 2nd, 2022 and January 4th, 2023. And was the action is a type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Rosner Residence, prepared by Aspect 120 Landscape Architecture. No conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on the resolution?
No question.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is it second?
Second.
Approved.
Approved?
Approved.
Approved. Dan?
Approved, and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Okay, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, we're moving ahead to number 11. That's 2022-36, 33 Osceola Avenue.
Good evening.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, great. Matt Behrens representing the application. For
Clear view of your
33.
jaw.
I'm sorry?
We have a clear view of your jaw.
Oh, I know this, I don't know what to do with this thing. It's, let me see if that helps. Oops. Maybe that's a little better. Okay. Sorry, again, Matthew Behrens, architect representing the applicant, Rishi Sawhney for 33 Osceola Avenue. This was presented last week. We'll share my screen and bring up the, oops, sorry, what's happening? Bear with me. Bring up the site plan. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in. So this is, this application is for to legalize an existing concrete patio.
Could you blow that up a little bit so we can see the site plan?
Certainly.
There you go.
That better? Good.
Yep, good.
So the application is to legalize this shaded area, this existing concrete patio. This was built sometime between 1998 and 2010. It does exceed the coverage. There were a couple of, at last month's meeting, it was raised, there were a number of issues with the application, including the cover, not only the coverage, but also the issue of the sewer easement. I also wanted to clarify that I did state in the previous meeting that the current owner built the patio. He did not. I have confirmed with the owner that this was an existing condition when he bought the house. So that hopefully clears that up. The issue with the coverage is addressed. I'll share that in a second. And then you can also see here where the sewer easement is, that the patio does encroach on the sewer easement. And I think one of the Han Engineering comments was also that the fence also crosses the easement at a couple of points. So in various conversations, and we've documented it on the drawings also, that the owner has agreed to remove that section of the patio if access to the easement is ever required. Obviously, the fence needs to stay, but it could be removed also if access to the easement is needed and rebuilt. There is a, and I included some photos in the resubmission. There is a concrete construction line, construction joint that does follow the line of the easement, so it could be easily cut off and have that section of the patio removed and then patched back if access to the easement is ever needed. I will show the, we also created a plan that shows some of the scale and coverage information. I'll blow this up also. So this is an analysis of the adjacent properties. You can see basically that of the dozen properties that were, or so 10, I think, properties in the immediate, area surrounding. This is the properties that were analyzed. None of them are conforming with the exception of one of them, which is just barely at 99%. I do agree that the amount of overage is high based on the others, but none of them are conforming. I think part of that is that they are mostly undersized lots in a 1F 40 acre, 40,000 square foot zone. They are all, you can see consistently about 20,000 square feet, including the subject property. So I think those are the major issues that were raised by the board at last month's meeting and also by the Han memorandum. I know that they came back with a couple more comments that I received this morning. I think they mostly addressed some labeling on the lot coverage sheet. This is the sheet on the drawing, the A01 drawing is accurate. But I do need to update the drawing, the chart in the application. So I will do that, and I'll also just confer with Doug and make sure we've got everything addressed, any of the issues that he was referencing.
Well, I find it a little disappointing. I thought in my comments of last month that we asked for the removal of what's over the easement now, not in the event if the sewer was needing repair.
Okay, I'm
So
sorry, Cesar, I didn't recall that, but
let me finish, please. Thank you. I can't believe you don't recall that. You can always review the minutes. And that the entire area adjacent to the sewer was to be looked at for removal. And you were to go back to the 1988 previous approval, which had a patio much smaller than what's there. Get that square footage, and because that square footage was approved, go into the square footage after you remove the part of the patio that's adjacent to the easement, and then we would look at whether or not the coverage is acceptable. The increased coverage over the previously approved coverage is acceptable. And we look at these kinds of applications as if it's coming in for a new patio, not legalizing something that was done without approval. And to be frank, I'm not sure this board would approve what's there now. So we have to take a careful look at removing what was not supposed to be there. And theoretically, without a doubt, you have to remove what's over the easement now. And like I said, consideration for removing the rest of that patio that's adjacent to the should be considered. But you need to look at the 1988 approval, what that square footage was, compare it to the increase that the patio that's there, as if it wasn't there because it's supposed, we consider it as a new application. And then we would consider it. We cannot consider what you have tonight, at least I can't. Let me poll the board.
I agree with you.
Speak into the mic.
I agree with you, Steve.
Michael, do you have any further comment?
No, I agree.
Michael? Agree. Dan?
I'm in agreement with you, Caesar.
So I don't see going any further until you, propose to remove now what's over the easement, everything, and go back to 1988, find out what the square footage of what was approved, and what you want to legalize is an increase over what was previously approved, and we would consider that. And part of that should be a piece by piece evaluation. In other words, what would the square footage be over the previously approved if the entire section adjacent to the easement is gone? If the section on the other side of the pool where the tables are, I mean, if that was the only part that you're asking for, so that we can take a look at it as a new application.
Understood.
Sarah, any comment from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Any further comment from the board?
No comment.
No.
No comments.
I have
All right,
no
thank you.
comments.
You have, I'm sorry, did you say you had a further comment?
That was Dan.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Forgot Dan.
I forgot
Again.
Dan. How can I forget Dan? Thank you, Dan.
All
All right, anything else?
Nothing for me, no.
Okay, we'll see you in the future.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're now moving on to number 12, 2022-30, which is 30-40 South Broadway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
How are you? First of all, Lino Sharetta, partner with the law firm Blakely, Platt and Schmidt. On behalf of SCF Holdings. First of all, hope you all had a good holiday and Happy New Year to you all. We are back here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We were last year back in December. This is for the renewal of the approvals for 30 and 40 South Broadway. Last time we were here, I know you, Mr. Chairman, had asked for some information on the site plan. We did provide that. I know JMC, we have Anthony Guccione on this evening, did provide the information requested regarding some elevations, which we did provide, an arborist report. Also, we show on the site plan, there was comments last month regarding the easement on the driveway of 40 South Broadway, which we put on the plan. Also, since the last meeting, we were able to obtain from the Board of Trustees an amended resolution regarding the affordable housing units. As the board will recall, last month, we noted that the square footage of the affordable units went up. And that was taken into account by the Board of Trustees at their meeting back in December. So we have that. And if there's any other questions the board has, I have Anthony here. If you have any other questions, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I know you guys had a long night and a long meeting, so we're hoping for a resolution. I understand for next month, and I hope when again we're willing to help the village attorney within that regard. But any questions, we're here, and I turn it over to Anthony for any updates on the site plan.
Anthony, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, just before Anthony goes on, we did receive the Hahn memo dated January 3rd, which basically states that we satisfactorily addressed the comments from the previous memorandum. And according to Hahn Engineering, they did not have any objection to the approval of the site plan, subject to the comments in the village regarding the landscape architect, which were attached to this memo. So thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, and as you know, my concern, and probably the rest of the board, is the architectural plans and what the front and back of these buildings are going to look like. The elevations and renderings for what it would look like.
Right. Yeah, they were. Oh, you want to bring them up?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go straight to that. Let me pull them up. The architect, I don't believe is on tonight, but we can try to find those drawings and bring them up for you. Let me search for them.
While he's looking for that, the resolution is a draft in progress. We don't have a complete draft tonight. The sequencing is it's like an octopus. It's all over the place. Mary Ann is grappling with it, and you'll be working with her and Ed to come up with the resolution eventually. And one of the issues is at what point certain things happen, and what do we do to ensure that it happens? In other words, we want this to happen before you get a building permit. We want this to happen before you get a CO. And those are the kind of things they're trying to work into the resolution, so that, for instance, the Broadway buffer repair for the vegetation, we may want that before there's a building permit. We may want that before there's a CO. I prefer a building permit, but we'd like to see that repaired as soon as possible.
Like that, Caesar, they have. that, before they can get phase two, that has to be completed.
Okay.
That's specific.
But that's the, some milestone, like an edge is joined in. Another milestone is that before you start phase two, to have certain things completed before you get to go to phase two, before this building phase two. And it's getting a little complicated because there's a lot of parts moving around and trying to.
Understood.
That's why the draft is cumbersome and it needs work. Like that, it's a work in progress. And maybe by.
I thought it was because Ed said I got coal in my stocking this year, so that's why. So
do we have?
we have a work session next week on your resolution. I can be sick that day.
So, yeah, good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Guccione with JMC. Happy New Year to all. I brought up the architectural plans. Can you see this? I tried to share my screen. I think it's not sharing anymore. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
Nope.
How about now? It's showing a blue line around it.
Sarah, is there something you can help him with?
It's not sharing, huh? Let me try one more time.
There we go.
There you go.
Starting to happen.
Yep, there we go.
That's showing it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see the building elevation there?
Yep.
Okay, I am not the architect, so I don't know how much of this I can explain, but what I can say is that the buildings are identical to what was previously submitted and approved. It's the same architect. He took the same plans. The only real change he made was where we have the affordable unit attaching to the market rate unit. That elevation was modified to meld those two together. I think that's what we're looking at here. But aside from that, the architecture is identical. So these were models 15 to 25 here. Oops, sorry, it's bouncing around a little bit. This is showing the same detailing with the same peaked roofs, all the same materials. He did not modify these drawings. He just pulled them out of his archives and updated them, as I just had mentioned. I'll keep going through them if you want me to point anything out. There's floor
We'll
plans in your package.
Go back to Model A.
Model A.
Is that the front, obviously?
I believe so.
Where is that in the site plan?
Unit 15 and 25. So let's see. If he updated his numbers.
That would be an internal building?
The one 18 and 19 here are the two that where the affordable is attached to the market rate. These are the other two affordables and all the rest are market rate. So let me go back to that again. This one.
What's the rear of that look like?
2, 4.
I'll tell you where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I'm concerned about what it looks like from the aqueduct and what it looks like when you're on Station Road, because you're looking at the rear of the building. And when you look at that representation of rear elevation, that's okay, because it's not, doesn't look like a blank wall with the blank roof. Some architectural features that are.
I believe that is the rear we were looking at because it does not have a garage doors in it. So this would be the rear side. This is a side. I'm sorry. This is a side. This is the other side. Left side elevations. There you go. So these are the side elevations.
All right, and the other two are the front.
Go back to this sheet.
So it's
This is
essentially
the front, the rear. So I can zoom in a little on that.
the rear is consistent for the entire site.
Yes.
Not the internal. I don't, the ones around the perimeter, that would be the rear.
Yes, some foundations shown on the ones that face to the south.
the same throughout.
I bring up the site plan.
Anthony, go to the site plan so we can see which number units are on along the aqueduct. And then you
Yeah.
can look for them on this.
Yeah,
thing.
unfortunately, I'm not sure if he updated his numbering to match our plan now that I'm looking at it, but 5, 6, this is an A. See, this is an A, an A1.
Got the
A,
affordables
B.
correct.
So the A, the A1, and the Bs are these. So if we go back to that, what we were just looking at. You've got, this is a model A. So this is the rear. This is what would face the aqueduct in that rear model that faces the aqueduct. This is the rear of it here on the A model. And then if I scroll down through the set, this is the model A again with the master upstairs. So this would be the sides of it.
Yeah, but this is Model A unit 15 and 25. The other one has Model A units 2, 4, 6, 9, 11, 13, 6. You see? That's why I was saying, look at the unit numbers on the thing. And I think they had 9 and 11, so. Because 15 and 25 were a different part of the, yeah, there's
I'm
9
just-
and 11.
9 and 11. Yeah, I'm just not sure if he updated them to match the new numbering system. We changed things. 9's here, 11's here. So they're A models. So that would make sense.
What
And I
about the
think
unit?
6 was on that thing too, yeah,
6 is an A. Yep.
yeah.
And then 5 and 7 are A1s. Let me look at that one. So this is this is an A1. This is 2 of those
Okay.
other units. So this is the front and this is the rear. So this is the rear elevation and this is the front with the garage door in it, the carriage doors. So you can see it's the same peaks, the same materials. It's very similar. And then the other one I believe was a B. And then 8 here in the middle was a B. Otherwise, they're all A's and A1s. So the B. It's A1 again. This is the B model. So again, you got the front here on the left and the rear here on the right. And it's hardy plank siding. You can see here, same as in the front, windows and the doors in the front. So it's
The same concern goes for what one sees from Station Road, which would be the south. Bring up the site plan and let's look at the A's and the B's on the south face.
Sure. So over here, you've got an A1, an A, and an A1. So we already looked at them.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
You want to see them again? The A and the A1?
Be sure.
Okay, and over here facing the Irvington Estates, you've got A's and A1s as well.
Okay.
So that pretty much, yeah, that covers all the unit types.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you were going to make a presentation before I interrupted you.
I didn't have a lot to say. Lino kind of covered it, just that we did respond to your board's comments, the comments of your consultants. They did start doing some work at the site this week, some of the remediation work. The owner started with some of the removal of the debris piles, stabilization of the driveway. They started wrapping the partially constructed building with new Tyvek to winterproof it. And then also Bartlett Tree Experts started out at the site today. They started invasive species removal along the Broadway buffer. And they started to remediate that 40-inch oak. They're doing some mulching and soil sampling so that they can help to improve that's the kind of stuff they could do now during the winter. As far as the timing of the Broadway buffer, I did hear you mention that. I know that Suzanne Nolan was in favor of holding off on the plantings until we got some time to get the invasives under control. We're going to do the invasive removal now. We're going to treat it with a herbicide so they don't grow back as vigorously. But then she wanted to monitor it for a little while and make sure that that's under control before you plant the Broadway buffer, and then those invasives choke those new plants out. So
Yeah.
we were hoping that would make the board, it would please the board to do it that way.
Yes, as Susan is is our expert and we rely on her, so she did mention the invasive species plan, an ongoing plan,
Right.
to
Yeah,
go
the
on.
owner-
So,
Yeah, the owner has retained Bartlett to do not only the report, but they're actually going to do most of that work relative to the arborist work. So you have a professional and you don't have somebody else trying to do the work that they're best fit to do.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on the presentation?
No, not unless you have any questions.
Yep, and just to add, we'll make ourselves available to, Mary Ann, Ed, to work with you to get the resolution finished, and obviously, if he needs to meet, we'll make the project team available whenever it's convenient for you all.
Okay. Any questions?
I would just say, Caesar, you're expressing concern about the back view to the aqueduct, and there are not, I don't know if there are any evergreen trees back there. It was like clear cut, basically. So my concern would be that really significant trees go up between the homes and the wall that's by the aqueduct to shield, some of the structure. There's not a lot there.
But not a lot there now.
Right.
All right. Is that just a rendering or Suzanne looked at the planting plan. The planting plan calls for what along the aqueduct buffer?
Yeah, these are more, there are a number of evergreen trees. You can see a handful of them, but there are a lot of deciduous trees along the back, but we can certainly increase the number of evergreen trees along that back along the aqueduct there, if the board would like that.
Well, you have to be tall enough so you can see them.
Right.
They have to be taller than the wall.
Right, and they will grow. I mean, they grow, once they get established, they grow fairly rapidly, the evergreens, so we can incorporate that and put some good sized trees in there. to
Okay.
start. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further question.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that it would be ideal if I think we didn't have to use herbicide to deal with that large of a quantity of invasive species and rather maintain it over time rather than use herbicide.
It's
totally
a very,
possible to do without herbicide. It's just you have to maintain the area.
yeah, so what's being proposed there is removal. So you would cut everything down at the stumps. All the shrubs would be cut down at the stumps, and then the vines would be cut at the ground and then 5 feet above the ground. So they'd be hanging in the tree until they died and fall out. And then you'd remove all that brush, and it's just a spot treatment of the stumps with this herbicide that'll keep them from growing back as vigorously. It's not, you're not spraying it all over the plants and all over the ground. It's right onto the actual stump of the plant to keep it from growing. So it's a very controlled thing. And like we said, we've got experts with Bartlett Tree doing that. And that's really the way to these are very aggressive species, and to really control them, that's really what's needed to be done.
Sure, I understand. It's only being used for trees?
No, it's being used for shrubs, invasive shrubs and vines. So they'd be cut down flush with the ground and then just treat where it was cut.
For the vines, where
it comes out of the ground, where it was growing. So you'll cut the vines at the ground, and typically the vines are growing up and choking out the trees. You see it a lot of times along the roads and the highways. So they'll cut that down at the ground, and then they'll also cut it at overhead so that they can move a big chunk of it. And then they treat that where it's coming out of the ground.
Okay.
Dan?
I have no comments, Caesar. Thank you.
While they were speaking, I forgot about my pet project of the easement to the lower section. At some point, Mary Ann is going to want to actually see the wording of the easement. And again, that'll be tied in to some milestone, prior to the completion of the project. At some point, Mary Ann,
It'll be CO of the property, CO of that unit.
And they can't sell without a CO.
Yeah, there's a bunch of easements they're gonna have to provide, and that's one of them. I won't lose track of it.
Okay. And the other thing is, when we first approved this project, and if you're counting on a lot of the first approvals, We didn't have a dark sky ordinance back then, and you may have to, you need to tell us if you looked at the lighting that was approved whatever number of years ago, whether or not today it meets dark sky compliance.
Yeah, I believe it does, Caesar and Anthony, because in our, I think in our comments in James's comments to Hans' memo from last month, I think we do say that it's dark sky compliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to us?
Nope, we're good, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, unless you had any questions of us.
Let me ask if there's any public comment.
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Any further comment from the
No
board?
comment.
Oh, well, good to go. And hopefully the work in progress will get done. And I know Ed and Mary Ann have a scheduled meeting, and then presumably you'll be checking with them.
Very good.
Ed?
The 9th, yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
That was that. Number 13, 2023-04, 9 Meadowbrook Road.
Hello, John Malone, Ferguson, Malone Architects again, representing the Mahaley Rodriguez family. We have a project for a new house on Meadowbrook. I can go through the project if you want. It's late, Caesar. If you like, I could just do a quick, a brief review of the project and jump right into the comments that we got, or let me know how you want to proceed.
Well, why don't you make a presentation of what's going on?
Okay. Sure. So the project is for an existing 1.5-story house on Meadowbrook Lane. The owner is a relative of the owner and has grown up on the property. And they're taking it over with a young family with 2 kids. Their plan is to build a house that is sort of their, life in Irvington house. And the goal is to have a house that has a lot of light and makes really good use of that existing site. So the site is at the, if you're looking here, is at the corner of Meadowbrook here. Right now it fronts on Meadowbrook this way, and then the aqueduct is to the east. The site has an odd shape to it. Our goal was to sort of situate the house in approximately the area that was developed now and expand the footprint. We're expanding the footprint to the north and relocating the swimming pool. We can relocate it, putting a new swimming pool up more adjacent to the house and leaving this lower area of the yard as more of an open play area. This site drops off relatively steeply down to the west and to the north. So the goal of the house is to sort of make a little courtyard area that provides some privacy to the aqueduct and then privacy to the street. So the, I can go to the site plan. So this is the existing condition. The site plan here has a lot on it, but the outline of the house, this is the actual proposed house. It's here. So this volume here is approximately in the location of the existing house, except the existing house is a little bit longer. And then this wing is really the additional space. In addition to that, we're bringing in the driveway at the level of the living space. At the living space right now, there's a driveway in the same location that goes down to a basement level garage. So this is providing, car access at the main living space of the house. So there's better access to the kitchen and the mudroom and other things like that. The pool has a relationship to the is intended to have a relationship with this deck area here and the living space of the house, and that's why it's sort of moved up this way. This is the boundary for the pool, which is really just around the pool area. And then access to the basement level is down in this lower area. So there's like a depressed area here that gives you access to the basement, allows for some windows in the basement. The design of the house, we have pool, sort of some initial pool drawings from a site perspective. Just quickly, we can go through what the strategy is. The strategy is to put the stormwater system down in this area. We got received from Han about whether this will perform in that area. We just got that note today, so we're reviewing with Hudson Engineers about whether that makes sense, because this area is developed as an existing pool. I'm not sure if there's something else we can do or how we would relocate it. But basically, that would be the use. You can see we're treating all the, even though there's an existing building there that has no stormwater treatment associated with it, we're treating the whole area, all the development would be treated strategy. The driveway and the access to the house here at the main level is requiring some grading in this area to let that driveway work. We're trying to keep the driveway as small as we can. We're trying to keep the existing curb cut. There's an existing barrier of hedges here that was basically the privacy screen between the adjacent house and the driveway area. So we're keeping that in place. There's also an existing screen of hedges along the driveway to the house to the north, and which is buffering. There's two layers of buffer, which is buffering the building from the aqueduct, both the proposed and the existing. This is the existing house, I think it's the 40s, I believe, ranch. The proposed house you see is sort of focused in this L shape, making a courtyard. So we have a dining room kitchen area facing west, living area facing west, and the entry area here, garage and mudroom here as you come in. On the second level, there is a primary suite with an office over the garage area, and then 3 bedrooms and a single bathroom. No longer on the sort of the children's wing. Yes. On the lowest level, in the basement level, we're proposing a guest suite and some playroom space. The exterior elevations of the house, the family is very interested in maintaining a gable, some form of a gable roof. Because of the height limitations and the slope site, it's a little difficult to do. So you'll see what we've done is sort of maintain a modern low sloped roof. So the house being proposed has this low sloped gable, sort of references the 40s to 60s modernism of a ranch. On the street side, part that faces the street, it's about 25 feet high. I think this line here is lower. And then the roof is like 25 or 27. So it's a relatively small house from the street side, basically adding a roof to the a second level to the existing house. This is sort of showing there's some complicated sections just because of the way that they're cut. But this is showing the house facing the aqueduct. This is showing the elevation of the house from the pool facing south. You see that the house sort of blocks your view of the street from the pool. This is showing the garage at the entry level with the primary bathroom, the sort of the volume of the primary suite here, and then the volume of the children's suite beyond. So that's where we are in terms of design right now. We received notes. I think we are slightly over coverage. Just to run back to that question, we are at 108 of allowable. We did some analysis just to see where that sat within the neighborhood. So the neighborhood analysis, wait, I went past it, sorry. We had analyzed 22 properties in the area, or 21 plus our house that are all in the 20 zone. And the existing coverage that's in place now, even with, right now we're at 105 of allowable, the existing house as it is. So we're adding about 3% of coverage, which is a countable number of square feet to that. It's like 30 or 40 square feet. And if you look at it in the outline here, there's only 4 properties that are below that. Most of them are much higher than that in terms of coverage. So we think in terms of its effect on the character of the neighborhood, it's very much in line with what's there. Then the other item that was brought up in the HON memo is the aqueduct buffer, which is actually 50 feet for tear downs. And I think that we enlarged the house, and I think we've gone beyond that. But I think we might look at alternatives to try to reduce that. Let me go back to the site.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't understand. You're reducing what? The 50 feet?
The aqueduct buffer is a 30-foot buffer. So here's the 30-foot buffer typically for the aqueduct. The Portland Aqueduct is here. It's a 30-foot buffer. And we've been told, we understand now that for a tear down or for something that is new construction, it's supposed to be a 50-foot buffer. So right now we're at 48.34 feet, the buffer. So I think we might look and see if we can get the 18 inches out of it, at least for the majority of the house. And that would, reduce the variance that we would be requesting for the buffer.
Are you going into?
I would stay out of the buffer, John.
Yeah, that's what we're in the buffer by about 18 inches at this corner. I think what happened is we actually widened the house, and I don't think we corrected ourselves for that. One of the things that's a struggle, though, is the way the house is directed, is we're trying to not look at the garage as we approach the front of the house. Like, we don't want to show garage doors to the street. We're trying to make it more welcoming than showing the big garage door, so the focus is really on the front door. So entering the garage on the site, even though the site is not super constrained, sliding the whole assembly over 2 feet may put a little bit of pressure on the grading rooms here. But we're going to take another look at that and resubmit along with the other stuff that we owe you.
Well, I would try very hard not to be in the buffer.
Right. So I think one of the things that I wanted, and I'll let you jump in, Caesar, when you want, but I did want to just one of the things we were looking at is the visual impact study was requested. I thought it might be helpful just to show the site and some of the conditions that are on the site. We think the visual impact of what we're proposing is going to be, it won't have any impact on river views, and the visual impact will be minimal in general. The development of this property here, you see the scale of what's happening back here. In that approval, I think there was a requirement to screen this driveway. So there's very elaborate evergreen screening along this driveway, very dense buffer. So the screening to the aqueduct is already in place and more mature than it would be if it was recently planted. So this is kind of the condition that you have now to the aqueduct with the screening that was in place for the other project. So, right now, you will see our second story over this, but it's not going to have an effect on views. But we'll put together a more detailed analysis with wireframes like you requested for that analysis.
And that's the ground level view. You're in the view, as you know, you're in the view preservation district also. You have to
right. This is views from the west. This is views from from the west, the east side of the building looking west, which is what I think what we would typically show you, but we will do some variation on the location. So those views that we just looked at now are from the aqueduct. I think they're actually from here, facing this way.
Well, like I said, that's that's the ground level view. We need to look and see what the to satisfy the view preservation, as you well know on previous applications. We'd like to see there's at least 2 homes, maybe 4, that could be impacted by the second floor, which I don't know. So you need to some kind of presentation on the view view.
So we can look for photographs that are up at a higher level that can simulate. That would be, so we'll take a look at that.
When you finish to have more questions.
Okay, I mean, I think unless there's something else you want to hit on in the preservation, you guys, I think you could let me know what else you want.
You know the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
You need to do an arborist report about what trees are coming out, what trees are coming out, and what by species, and what the replacement trees are proposed. You have to do some screening for the pool. And you just work with Suzanne. You have done that before.
Right.
Your notification to state parks for their comment was lacking.
Sent to the wrong place.
It wasn't sent to the correct address, if there was an address. And from my point of view, and I'll check with the rest of the board, I firmly believe a new house should meet code 100%. There's no need for a brand new house on a large piece of property not to meet code. And the garage facing the view of the house facing the road, the blank wall of the garage that's going to face the road, that you showed a picture of it before. That needs to be part of the screening plan.
Okay, just to understand, your reaction is to the fact that the garage doesn't have windows facing the street, or is it?
Blank wall facing the street, and it would be nice if there was some kind of screening in front of the blank wall facing.
Yeah, we could plant it. There's room for there to be some plant. Yeah, and there would be, I think in the planting plan, there's some stuff shown there, but we can clarify that.
All right, and go back to the site plan.
Yeah.
All right, is that a retaining wall to the left of the driveway?
Yes, this is retaining.
All right, what's the height of the wall?
I think it's 30 inches here. And I think it goes up to about 48 inches here in the corner.
Is the same height as the driveway?
I believe so. It's pretty much the same height as the driveway.
You're going to use a lot of fill there?
I think from the excavation of the house, I don't think we'll need any additional soil to do that.
You didn't show any profile elevations. We would like to see a cut through. Let's see, going east to west across the driveway and across the retaining wall to the property line, and what that looks like. That's a rather steep slope to the west of the retaining wall.
It is, right. So this is a relatively steep slope, and we did get a note about using riprap on that slope. We don't want to do something as industrial as riprap, so if it's something that needs to be reinforced, we're thinking of this as a planted border, so we can fabric reinforce it and show you it's all supposed to be green, so we can clarify.
We'd like to see, like I said, the cross section of those of the elevations, from the house to the property line of what those elevations, what the profile would look, the elevation profile would look like.
Right, and you're talking about through the driveway, basically right through here.
From right to left.
Yeah, or right to left this way.
I can't see it.
I'm sorry, let me draw something.
The west side of the house, through the driveway, through the retaining wall to the property line.
This is the section. That's the section code you're on.
I'm not interested in the house that much, but if you go the whole set.
Yeah, basically this condition right here. Yeah.
Right. And how you said you might put riprap, and that's is that gonna, how's that gonna look?
No, that was a recommendation from Han, just basically pointing out that the slope could be steep. I think it's 2 to 1 in certain areas through here. So if there's a concern about erosion for the 2 to 1 slope, we'll reinforce it with fabric, something we don't want to use for.
There may be selective vegetation you could put along there
That was only if you exceed certain steepness, not a recommendation to just put riprap on.
Yeah, sorry, Doug, I didn't mean to make you sound like that. I just, yeah.
I'm concerned of what that looks like from the west. And you know, it's going to be rather steep, and if anything can grow on there, and what the wall, would you say 30 inches high from grade?
I think from the top to bottom, we're targeting trying to keep it at 30 inches, so not very much wall.
The other thing, and I asked Doug to look at it, the retention basin is at the lowest spot in the property. I mean, take a look at the how effective the retention system will be, since it's going to might be collecting surface runoff, because it's at the bottom of the hill, actually at the bottom of 2 hills, going from east to west and from north to south. I'm sorry, from south to north. The contours head north. So there's drainage coming from both directions into the retention area.
Yeah, and I think it continues to drain off to the west, though, off property. Like, so is the tributary area analysis, Doug, what you need to address what Caesar just spoke of there?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was concerned with surface water, you know, ponding, Caesar, is that right?
Yeah, and then running off, you know, to the property next door.
I mean, that is where it's going now. I mean, there's the pool there, of course, but
we don't want to make it worse.
yeah, I mean, and as John mentioned earlier, I mean, there's no system now, and they're going to be treating the entire house. So we haven't looked at calculations yet. So I mean, we still have a lot to review as far as stormwater goes.
Okay.
Right. At the moment, right now, we're just sort of looking for a location and looking at, you know, making sure that, you know, some of Suzanne's comments were concerns about tree impacts of that location. You know, so we can address all that stuff now and do the calculations and make sure that it works. But I do think the condition should be better than what's there now. But I can let our engineers know that we need to address like just off-site surface runoff and make sure that that's been taken into account.
Yeah, one thing mentioned too, it should be in virgin ground. I mean, you have a pool there and compaction and everything already, so that could impact your system.
Yeah, I can talk to our engineers about it. You guys, it's late. I'll talk to them about it. But it's basically we need to be decompacted in order to make sure that it functions the way we want it to function.
Okay. Let me ask the rest of the board. Like I said, my view is that a new house should not need a variance for anything. That's why you build new, so it meets the code. That's why there's codes. I'll ask the board to offer their points of view on anything, including the coverage issue or meeting code. Not limited to meeting, whether to meet code or not.
So, I mean, I understand what Caesar's saying. I will say, I don't think the house that you're trying to build is oversized. It's actually like, seems very realistic and not egregious to, you know, to the actual site and the neighborhood. I mean, I think Meadowbrook looks to me, but just from walking around there, to be a street that eventually will have more of these types of renovations and additions, right? The house behind, I remember when that was built, and you are correct, the screening is great. In fact, you barely see that current house that you're planning to tear down. So, you know, a tiny bit over does not worry me so much. I think like that the aqueduct buffer is probably a sticking point and more difficult that would be hard to get around. That's it.
Anything else?
No, I think obviously you have a lot to do still, so it'll continue to evolve.
Mike?
I have nothing to add to what's already been said. I agree about the aqueduct buffer. I generally agree that it ought to be built to code, but I haven't yet seen a proposal with a 50-foot buffer. So I don't know how that buffer, John, is going to change whatever is here in order to achieve the 50-foot buffer. And I'll wait.
I think Rose, most likely we're gonna look at a proposal that slides the building over slightly to allow that to happen.
If you move it to the west and to the north, you might alleviate your concern of getting too close to the western property line.
Right, all right, yeah. Yeah, it's really, we're having a little pinch point here in terms of maneuverability, but I think there's a solution there. So we'll look to focus on that at the same time and pick up the rest of the comments and get that back to you guys.
Mike, the other Mike.
Just to confirm, it's 108 of allowable, 108%.
It's 108 of allowable. Again, if we look at the analysis of that,
that's fine.
it's just a lot of it is flat work. Like we have this path to the street. I think that's questionable. You know, like the impact of that in terms of, you know, that's part of our 8%. You know, we have some other flat work outside, patios and stuff like that. So I mean that's something we can work on to try to make that up.
The reason I bring it up, because I do agree with Caesar. I think in this situation, though, we need to balance, you know, the sacrifice that the owners would have to make to meet code, since it's such a small difference. So it might be good to know why that 8% is necessary. Like how severe of a negative impact is that going to have on the owners? And that way we can balance the impact on the town with them having the house they want.
Right. Right. And I think that's some of the things that I brought up, like some of the things, you know, part of what the Irvington Code is, it treats every piece of coverage similarly. So if you have a stepping stone, it's similar in terms of coverage impact as the building. So, you know, part of the things that we would say are over
coverage, that's very different. We'd have to get rid of the garage.
Right.
So
right.
That's so we're looking for stepping stones. I think we easier for us to push on. Maybe you can do something with that, as opposed to, listen, we have to take away a room.
Right. Right. I mean, sometimes, and I'll let you guys think, sometimes I'm sort of concerned, like, so we, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't think some of the coverage that we propose, like stepping stones with grass joints through this area, I'm not sure what the negative impact of those are. So when we are over on coverage, it's usually with stuff, with items like that, where there's an inconvenience to the owner of not having that. You know, you have mud and you have
right, but I would argue not that big of an inconvenience for that to be the reason that you go over,
right?
As opposed to removing a room, which is a big inconvenience.
Yes, has much more of an impact. If one of the children has no place to sleep, yeah, that's a different impact, right? Yeah, understood. So we'll look to tighten it up to the extent we can.
Dan, you have a comment? Any?
No, it's pretty much, I'm in agreement with you and the mics in reference to the new home meeting code. Excuse me. You know, pretty much it's a blank structure being built, so it's not a surprise what our codes are, although occasionally you might get a surprise here and there, but ideally the home should be built to code, and the aqueduct buffer obviously has to be addressed, and the in this case too, the view preservation view with the neighbors as well should be addressed, which John knows, but we'll address it in future sessions.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, any public on the Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Do we have a in-person public?
Just come to the microphone.
You got to come up. Microphone.
Where do you want me?
Right here. at the mic, not these mics. but-
Okay. I'm Arthur Shabon from 11 Meadowbrook, the property to the west. And I guess my only real concern is the elevated driveway and how that's going to appear from my property when I look up. I'm concerned about cars as they pull out of the garage. Those headlights are going to be shining now at a higher elevation right into my house. So I'd want to see some kind of screening to mitigate that. And then how that raised, I don't really understand what the character of that raised berm supporting the driveway is going to look like. So I just would want to understand that. I'm basically reiterating your comments. And then I also I'm concerned about that blank facade facing Meadowbrook, just in terms of the character of that and how it relates to other buildings on the other houses on the in the area. That's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much. Sarah, was there anybody in the public?
No.
Okay, anything further?
No.
based on- Anything further?
No.
John, you have anything to add?
No, that was all helpful. I think that's good. We know what we're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, and what the gentleman said at the part of the driveway that's closest to Meadowbrook, you may want to consider screening there concerning the headlight issue.
Right. If Arthur's still available to respond, the way I understood that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, is that the concern is that there'll be headlights coming out of the driveway this way, because there's a real opportunity to screen in this area with something tall and evergreen that you could control for that. Is that correct? Arthur?
I think, yeah, the more screening you have, obviously, the better. I'm not sure, actually, looking at this now, if you're going to be able to back into that garage anyway. So
Yeah,
it may not
it's
be-
more, it's the maneuverability, the way it's designed right now is this. It's a head-in kind of situation.
Similar situation with lights in reverse. So I think just some screening there would be important. And then also, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of all the surface drainage issues in this part of Irvington. You know, my neighbor down to the west had enormous problems with surface water. We've had less, but now that our driveway is going to basically be in a little canyon, I'm more concerned about that. Also during construction, as well as after.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think there hasn't been any analysis of the tributary area, the offsite runoff and the surface related runoff. Again, like Doug mentioned, you saw the size of that system. It should significantly reduce what's happening compared to untreated water on the site right now. But we'll make sure that it's a step in the right direction as opposed to some risk of additional water.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
thank
John,
you.
anything else? John,
Yeah,
anything else?
no, that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Did you design the Aspen Chabad?
Yes.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. Yeah, I was there for Rosh Hashanah services.
To number 14, that's
Really beautiful.
2023, Bob Harriman Keep.
If you're here to represent the applicant, can you please hit the raise hand button?
While we're waiting for this gentleman, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 5 to 10. I need to stretch my legs.
Tough time. 5 minutes. Fine. Oh, you gotta, you have to go into there. Yeah. That's only during rainstorms. I'll go fill that. No, well, the police department getting that by going there? Yeah, probably. Okay. We'll double team.
Ed, what are they doing to the house that the guy bought, the big white one where they had the party?
Right now, there's some interior stuff and a car crash with a little gate.
I know that it was a FedEx truck up, actually, I saw it. Yeah, but, oh, really? Because I thought it dropped.
Yeah.
Because
Right
I
now-
see they protected by the aqueduct.
What's that again?
They protected on the backside by the aqueduct.
Did they?
They put
They might.
fencing
be
and
building,
stuff.
yeah. It's Stanislaus there. We have a permit for some interior stuff and a window thing.
'Cause I saw they were out on the deck.
Yeah, the
Okay.
battlers going on the thing are getting rebuilt, the concrete ones.
Okay,
There's some historical stuff right now that I'm aware
yeah,
of. I've been out in the field and. Yeah.
time to go.
But that-
Time to get there.
Which house?
The the African American woman, I'm forgetting her name. There was a little
Villa
series.
Lawaro.
Oh.
Wait, what's
Villa Lawaro.
right? They're doing work on the
There's an accident
backside.
in the house?
I saw the FedEx truck that hit the iron gate.
Oh.
Yeah. Hi, where everyone's taking a 5-minute break,
Oh, I see. That's what was happening.
bio break. Mike, I thought that was a good point about,
I feel like that's what we're
what's
gonna end
making
up
you
with.
go over. And honestly, like you do want stones to your front door.
So I can
Do
see that.
they impact like someone's view or the environment? No, so,
It's more of a like, we have a solid paved, going to the front door versus we have
Right.
stones and we
Right.
may break it up a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
You
no,
know,
that's a
not-
good point.
No one wants to force them to have something that we would all feel is a requirement
Right,
for a house.
right.
But if they had like a patio, they're like, hey, you don't really need that.
Right, you could make that
Yeah.
a little smaller. It's hard to get it exactly right, and that is gonna be a struggle with that.
Right, or if it's
the-
like the kids, the bathroom would be a 4x4
Right,
and
right.
your knees would be touching the
Yeah.
door. That's unreasonable.
Yeah,
It just helps us say,
So
it's worth
the-
it,
right. I
So
think-
the house adjourned again.
Yeah. Are you, what's up? What,
Just
You
happened,
just
huh?
have a cold?
Yeah, I'm getting over the cold.
Yeah,
That's all. It's been, once I got it, I knew that the progression. But I was with my daughters and my grandkids. Wherever we go, Dorothy tests us. We're fine.
yeah, yeah. I can't believe I dodged a bullet, but whatever. And now I'm, 3 weeks into my booster, my last booster, so I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's like a head cold. That's all.
Yeah. What happened? They got rid of the water thing?
It's just not anything here when they get watered in. Because of
Um,
upset clients and throw spots.
oh,
That applies, fine.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sitting there talking, well, it's coming out the water. And so, and that's what's out of all the stuff in here. And then,
Yeah,
so every once
Yeah,
in a while,
that
they
makes
put it in,
sense.
they put that and bring it back.
yeah. I got it.
Want some more?
I bring mine, thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
So to me, it could happen to a nicer guy. Mr. McCarthy.
Oh,
I mean, this group of 20. It's got the right, to me, it's got the right result for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a surprise approval. Somebody's gonna come out of the woodworks.
is everybody back?
You all
Doug,
back?
We're waiting for Doug.
Doug?
I see our applicant is
He
on.
might have went. He said 10. Didn't you?
I said
Oh,
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah, and then he says, see you back at 10.
No, I said in 5 minutes.
I have 5 minutes.
I know, and then you said, see you back at 10.
Uh-oh.
I said, so you don't.
No.
Did I say that?
Once we see the minutes.
Call him.
Will you play back? Let me play back.
Yeah.
I don't think I said that. I said 5 minutes.
I got 10 minutes.
It's doing the math from the beginning at 15 minutes apiece. Just the resolutions were 2.5 hours, so you picked up the pace very well after the second one.
Oh,
I said that correctly, right?
is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a lot of deleting in between.
No.
Call Doug, and get him back on.
He's fine.
Oh, yes, okay,
Let's go, Doug.
we're ready.
We're ready to go. If the applicant is ready. Dan,
Ready. I'm ready. Good evening.
Go ahead.
and there's Dan, okay. All right, we're back on the record. And proceeding, as I said, with number 14, 2023-03, 5 Harriman Keep. You're on.
All right, Daniel O'Connor, architect. We're here to present a legalization for an existing undocumented rear yard deck with the intent of replacing it in kind. And existing deck in need of repair, and we applied for replacement at the Architectural Review Board, and we were told to present here to the planning board as well.
You want to bring up a site plan so we can see what we're looking?
So, are you able to see my screen? All right.
Not yet.
Not yet. What does he have to do, Sarah? Hit share?
I got it. Let me see. Let me see here. I got it. Share screen. Okay. That should do it. Okay, here we are. Here we are. You see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, the home is a row house, a townhouse, part of the Harriman's Keep development. So it's attached on both sides to other homes, similar size and similar backyards. And so you'll see the an overall lot plan, and then the detail of the area of work, existing conditions, and proposed.
Okay, there's several questions we have. One is the coverage issue. The building inspector needs more accurate coverage numbers. It appears that the deck is getting bigger. Is that true? And you said replaced in kind, but is it in kind or you're making it bigger?
We are maintaining the same profile. We were basically lowering the grade to avoid one step. There's one step from the house to the existing deck. We're just adjusting the height so it would be one continuous surface.
Anyway, the coverage numbers need to be fixed. You need to meet with the building inspector and go over the coverage numbers.
Coverage numbers.
I think you need homeowners association
Yes.
approval. And we didn't see that if you have it. There's also an issue. You're in the middle of the row of houses. So you're going to have to construction access. You're going to have to cross over other people's property. We'd like to see how you're going to do that. Various approvals from whoever's property you need to go over to get to what you're doing.
I believe we can go through our property. I believe everything could go.
Oh,
through
you
the
need to show.
Pardon?
There's trees. If there's trees involved, you need to show tree protection. You didn't show anything. The plan I'm looking at doesn't show trees. There may not be any trees, but
I
you need to
received
say
the
that.
comments from Han this morning. This morning at 10 o'clock, I received the comment. We can
Okay,
address
good.
those.
And then there's a window well that may or may not be blocked. That may be an issue. You need to talk to Ed about that, the building
We need to
inspector.
know if it's being used for egress or not in the basement.
It may be a way to get out that you may be blocking.
We would not
Um,
be modifying it at all. It's substantially where it is right now.
Well, you show it being covered some in the proposed.
Anyway, you need to fix that with Ed. And the site plan needs to be completed. The site plan is either incomplete or doesn't exist.
You need to show the setback lines on the site plan.
Okay. Okay.
So just to roughly go through this, these are the issues. The site plan is an issue. The window well is an issue if it's egress. The trees might be an issue. Construction access with approvals, homeowners association approval, and the coverage calculations need to be verified with the building inspector.
All right.
Okay.
And I can address this at the Irvington Building Department.
And make a new submission for the next meeting.
Now, I received a letter this morning from Han Engineering. Do I respond to Han or do I respond through the building department?
You'll respond, that whole memo is in conference with your existing submission for this month to hopefully correct those items for next month's submission. If you need a hand, give us a call.
All right, fantastic.
He submitted.
It's a submission to Savage, just like his first one.
Yeah, okay. All right, you got that?
Fantastic, thank you.
Any comment from the board?
Now, do you have any questions about the coverage, or you're clear on where to get that information?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, no question.
Mike?
No questions.
Mike?
No questions.
Dan?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next time when you got some homework.
Thank you very much.
Next one is number 15. It's 2023-02 at 73 Station Road.
Hi there. Good evening again.
Go ahead, identify yourself. We know who you are, but
James Crappa, Studio Park, representing the owners of 73 Station Road. Hopefully I can keep this brief. This is the first time seeing this application. However, it's a very minor FAR addition that has triggered us to planning board. We submitted this to the building department similar to the previous application in hopes that it wouldn't necessarily cause any issues with planning board, as it is no change to coverage. However, it does change a small 7 square foot of FAR that is actually not technically inhabitable, which I can explain in slightly more detail. I can share my screen now and explain the application. We did receive Han and Nolan's comments earlier today, most of which can be easily addressed, but I can speak to the whole of the project a little more entirely right now. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
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 Okay. So we're all familiar with Station Road. 73 Station Road is just beyond the aqueduct wall, 4 buildings in, or three buildings in. Everything on this area has been built or expanded upon except for this property, to the best of my knowledge. Maybe 85 hasn't been. So you've probably seen a lot of these over time or been familiar with the region. What we're proposing at this time is a very simple addition onto, and hopefully you can see this right here in this region. We simply want to add a cantilevered fireplace to their living room, and then subsequently some interior renovations that don't impact planning board application. That small impact, however, is this 7 square foot addition right close to the existing border of the previous or of the existing property. When this was purchased by the owner, there have been no changes to date. Nothing has been updated in any way, shape, or form. This is the first proposal that's been put forth to the building department, planning board, et cetera. So that chimney has been proposed. Subsequently, related coverage issues have been brought up. We don't believe there's any coverage issues for the fact that this is only FAR and we're not actually touching the ground. We propose this as and I'm not sure if you can see this now. We propose this fireplace addition, which is semi-inside, semi-outside, as cantilevered, not actually touching the floor of the actual property itself. This is a off-the-shelf fireplace wood-burning unit and chimney sleeve that is being proposed, just this addition right here, as you can see. And that's what's being proposed at this time. The majority of the comments came back were clarifying existing trees, which we haven't fully noted. We have requested a full survey of the property. However, we just haven't gotten it in time due to backlog and the fact that we didn't necessarily think that this was impacting coverage or any real changes to actual planning board issues, zoning board issues, et cetera. So we're working on getting those things. However, we think this is a fairly minor application and something that we don't think is creating great impact. We look forward to any questions or comments that you might have at this time.
Yeah, on the face of it, you're right. But then when you look at the codes, there are some issues. And you're right, you need a survey to make an accurate site plan because the coverage issues and side yard setback is not clear without an accurate survey. If there's a side yard setback variance that might be needed. This has come up before at other meetings. The chimney presents an issue, has to be addressed in the view preservation issue district. So one has to address that. And it is in a floodplain, but since it's not touching the floor, you need to talk about that, that the floodplain should be okay because as you have it, can't leave it out.
Come and see me on that. I'll give you some other ones that have been done in the neighborhood. And your answers will be much easier than theirs.
Yeah, and
appreciate it.
While it doesn't touch the ground, it's
still coverage.
It's still coverage. You need to talk to the building inspector as to why it.
Just like a deck doesn't touch the ground, but it's coverage.
We understand.
It doesn't touch the ground.
We're. I don't want to say it's gray, but we understand it's not.
You're right. I mean, the code is interesting and how something, I don't know, whatever. Okay, there's the coverage you have to set up. We're not sure if it's a side yard setback because you don't have an accurate survey. Floodplain view preservation.
Yeah, and I believe the issues related to view preservation in the floodplain we can address in our next iteration back. Survey, again, we were hoping that this was so minor that we didn't need to re-engage. It is an interesting site due to the fact that there's topography. So a survey it's not as easy as getting a minimally cost survey for other properties. And since there wasn't one existing, we've been trying to keep this a very minimal project from a cost perspective in general. I don't want to say it's minor, but it addresses a lot of issues that we need to maintain. So we can address those things in the next iteration, but I don't believe these are things that cannot be adjusted and answered and resolved. So
hopefully you're correct. And I don't want to commit.
I leave that up to you.
You're finished, correct?
I am.
Lori?
No question.
Mike?
Nothing further.
Mike?
No question.
Dan?
No questions.
Sarah, anything in the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, well, we'll see you next time. You got your homework.
I appreciate it. Have a good night. Thanks for all your work late.
And the next one, number 16, the last on the list. is 2023-01-11 Stearns Ridge. Let the record show that Lori Davidowitz is recused on this property. Sarah?
Yeah, they're coming on.
Good evening, everybody. Am I muted or
We can hear you.
You're good.
you can hear me? Good, how are you? Sorry, I'm the last item. I'm sure you all want to leave, so I'm going to make this very brief. This is a house that was approved by the planning board and was recently constructed. It was done back, I think, in 2015, I would say. We've gone through all the process of the planning board approval, architecture review board, et cetera, et cetera. At this stage, the homeowner is in need to build a portable, oversized hot tub, which is also functions as a lap pool. It is not a construction, it's a portable unit that will be surface applied over a brick pavers. Like I said, the project is absolutely minor. And as far as we know, we've done our calculations. We are still under the coverage requirements, so we're not introducing it. We received Hans' comments today, and one of them is questionable. Maybe we are above. We will address that along with the rest of the comments. We will be also communicating with their office, and as we will be communicating with the building department, and we will address all items that possibly addressable before we come back to see you the next time.
Could you bring up the site plan, please?
I'm trying to figure that out.
There's an icon, Sarah, for share.
Yes.
On the bottom is a share screen.
I don't see it.
Look down on the bottom for a yellow square.
It's a green
That's a
square.
green square now. Haven't done it in a while.
This is on my laptop, not on the meeting. I don't see one.
Would you like me to pull it up?
Yes, please. That would be nice. Okay.
And blow it up a little bit, Doug.
Yeah, I have no control over it, so.
There you go, okay.
Okay, this is the proposed hot tub. It's gonna be completely in compliance with the town requirements regarding setbacks, regarding being in the backyard, completely in the backyard of the property, and it is within the setbacks. Like I said, this is a portable unit that will be just imported and installed and operational. It will have electrical connection to it, and it will be filled with a garden hose. It's not a huge amount of water that is required to fill it. Like I said, the unit is an oversized hot tub, but it also has jets to act as a lap pool for exercise.
The site plan is lacking. You should have shown the play set. And the gravel is part of coverage, that gravel there.
Okay.
And you got what appears to be a slab there. I'm not sure if it's a concrete slab or
Now,
pavers.
that's a little patio that's a brick paver patio. Actually, that's where the unit is going, on that patio.
So the owner installed that without approvals, so.
That I really can't answer that, but I'm gonna
Well,
so this is exactly the same size, so I cannot answer
Um,
yes or no on that. I don't have that.
You know, the gravel needs to be included as part of coverage.
We will do that, and if that will increase our coverage, we might propose to remove it and replace it with the grass. I mean, those are the items. We saw that on the comments from Han, and we will be addressing all of them. And like I said, we will be we will comply with everything that need to be complied with.
And it's 5 foot high. You need to provide screening.
Do I need to provide screening for it?
That's not a question. That was a directive. You need to provide. I suggest you contact or in Doug's letter, I'm sure he addressed the screening issue by referring you to Susan Nolan's comments.
Caesar, if I recall, she might have mentioned because of the location, maybe it was already screened. I don't want to speak for her.
In that direction, but the other direction, Doug, I think she still was looking for something.
She's looking for something coming from the other direction.
Okay.
I forget which is east and west, well, the opposite direction from that.
Like I said, we will address most comments that we can address before we come back to see you again.
And there's fencing that has to be.
Yeah, that fence doesn't comply with the pool code, or the village pool code.
Even though the pool, the unit itself is more than it's 5 feet tall, so it's because they're like above a ground pool, so therefore it doesn't need a fence. The fence that's there is 4 foot high.
So the screening, our village screening code requires a 5 foot fence. And the state building code requires any pool over 4 feet to have a fence around it. They're 2 separate code books. You can't intermingle them how you feel.
So the bottom line, Ed, is.
So you either need to put a fence around that piece of pool, or you need to raise the existing fence up to 5 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just reading.
I'm just
my
writing
notes.
as we speak, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
I understand where you were going too. But unfortunately it doesn't work that way.
All right, we'll see. Okay. All right, so we'll like I said, we'll address the items and we will be communicating to make sure that we resolve all issues on hand.
It should be noted where there was a letter of support from 5 Stearns, Amy Sif. Mike, you have any comment?
So was it intended, is the intention for this tub to actually be portable?
Yes, it's a portable unit, and I think we submitted a copy of this brochure on it.
So what will happen with that tub at the end of the season, so to speak? I mean, you can use the hot tub into the cold weather, so.
No, you can still use it in the winter because it's a heated hot tub. I have been in a hot tub where it was 5 degrees below up in Vermont.
I have too. Once it's in its location, the intention is for it to remain in its location, right?
Correct, yes.
All right.
It is, yes, it's portable, but it's going to be permanently installed. It's not going to be, like, in other words, what I meant by portable, it does not require excavation and foundation, etc. It's just going to be like imported and install, sit in place. That's what I meant by portable.
Okay.
Good. Excuse me, Mike. Go back. Mike mentioned something. What about draining? Do we put regulations on draining?
Yes.
That you have to wait 10 days before you drain it to.
So the answer is we asked for that, but there's no way to drain this into the public system. The only place to drain it is into their dry well system, which is shown on the plan.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mike, the other Mike.
No question.
Dan?
No questions, Caesar.
Okay, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Comment from the public that's sitting here.
Hi, Lori Davidowitz, 3 Stearns Ridge. Is there a reason why they wouldn't want to just dig it into the ground instead of having it above ground?
The type of unit is designed to be above the ground to to install it in the ground, we really have to drill, to put a well in there, and, you know, with walls around it, the area where it's going is flat. To bring it down to the ground would also require, if we put that pit in there, we were required to drain it and protect it in the winter or what have you. So it's really become an extremely complicated issue to do so.
Okay.
And where it is proposed, it's really complete privacy, and it will not invade anybody's privacy. It has its privacy from the neighbors, and also will not invade anybody's privacy. For
Yeah,
anybody
agreed.
that's using the hot tub.
It's a good location. And I just want to make sure, I don't think it's an issue, but that there's a letter on record from the HOA.
There is, I didn't see it if there is.
I don't know. I'm just saying, it's not, I don't think it'll be an
It's not
issue.
necessary in
Right.
this community.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
It might be required for your,
you. No,
for us, right?
Just for you, not for us.
Yeah, we don't need one for,
Okay.
all right, thank you, Lori.
No, the homeowner had his hand raised, but it is no longer raised. So I don't know if he wants to make a comment.
Well, if the homeowner is listening, you had your hand raised and now it's gone. If you really want to speak, raise your hand again.
No.
No,
He's not raising his hand.
not raising your hand. Okay, anything further for present? Anything further for presentation? Hello,
Nope, thank you.
any further questions from the board?
No,
Dan,
no questions.
we're done. You got your homework? Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much. We'll talk to you very soon. Have a
Okay.
very nice evening, everybody.
Thank you. That concludes the evening of January 4th at 10:23. Thank you, everybody. It was a long, and thank you especially to Mary Ann. She had to write 10 resolutions over the holiday week. It was quite an effort, and it worked out very well. We got them all done. Thank you all, and again, Happy New Year. Meeting is closed.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Aye.